Chapter 456. Gulp, Li Wuyo quietly took a step back. Jilin turned around and glanced at her. What's wrong? Li Wuyo chuckled. Uncle Long, you two are very close? Jilin glanced at Batel again. It's okay. That? Uncle Long. Why did he kneel to you? How would I know? I told him many times not to kneel, but he didn't listen. Li Wuyo was speechless. He was one of the 5 claws of Myriad Spirit Nation. He knelt to you, but he didn't listen. Although Li Wuyo was complaining in her heart, she was already in despair deep down. It was impossible for one of the 5 claws to kneel to someone, not to mention kneeling so smoothly and naturally. Just like how it was impossible for the 3rd prince to kneel to someone. But if they were kneeling to someone else, then everything would make sense. For example, if the 3rd prince was worshipping the heavens, then there would be no problem for him to kneel. The 3rd prince wouldn't have any burden in his heart. As for the 5 claws of Myriad Spirit Nation, they only worshipped the Red Calamity. I have been standing behind the Red Calamity all this time? Father and mother both call the Red Calamity Brother Long. Is the Middle Empire going to betray the human camp? Then, am I the Middle Empire's sacrifice to the Red Calamity? To maintain the peace between the Myriad Spirit Nation and the Middle Empire? The Middle Empire did have the custom of worshipping the Dragon God. However, it had been many years since the sacrificial offering was a living person. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. She was the princess of the Middle Empire. She was most likely Li Yu's biological daughter. No, father didn't allow her to come, but mother. Could it be that she wasn't born by mother? Was it the result of father's debauchery in the past? No wonder, the more Li Wuyo thought about it, the angrier she got. When she thought about the 3rd prince when he was young, she felt that her thoughts made sense. Wah! Li Wuyo suddenly burst into tears, which startled Jilin and Aisha. Only Batel's eyes flashed fiercely. The fear before death and the despair of being abandoned caused Li Wuyo's weak mind to completely collapse. She knew where she was now. It was the most mysterious demon area in the Myriad Spirit Nation. The deepest part of the fiery demon tribe, the lowest level of the Red Dragon Palace, was also the holy land of all demons and ghosts in the Myriad Spirit Kingdom. Red Dragon Palace, Chaos Temple. The residence of the Red Disaster. It was said that there was gold everywhere and countless human skeletons. Li Wuyo was now certain that the first rumor was true. As for the second one, it shouldn't be. With her Uncle Long's teeth, it would be strange if a human came here and left behind a corpse. Li Wuyo wept with vigor, as if he wanted to devote the rest of his life to the great work of crying. Jilin was also somewhat puzzled. Aisha hurriedly hugged Li Wuyo and patted her shoulder gently. Li Wuyo trembled even more violently. She also guessed who Aisha was. She was the darkest shadow in the Myriad Spirit Nation. The most evil witch, the most terrifying enemy of the Myriad Spirit Nation, Aisha. I don't know what's wrong with this child. Why don't we take her to rest first? Aisha saw that Li Wuyo was crying so hard that she didn't even look like a human anymore. She hurriedly said to Jilin. Okay. Jilin hurriedly nodded. Why is this child suddenly crying? Oh right, I remember that the 3rd prince's body wasn't very good when he was young. It might be hereditary. Aisha rolled her eyes at Jilin. What are you saying in front of a child? The 3rd prince's body wasn't bad when he was young. It was his own fault. Okay, then I'll take her to rest first. Aisha dragged Li Wuyo out. Halfway through, she suddenly remembered something. She looked back at Jilin and asked, which room is she staying in? Staya, then. Before Aisha finished her words, Jilin's eyes had already turned cold. He coldly looked at Aisha. Suddenly, Li Wuyo stopped crying. Because a chill quietly rose from the bottom of her heart and went straight to the top of her head. On this lava lake, he could make people feel cold with just a glance. Okay, no. Why are you so fierce? I'll just find a room for her. Facing Jilin's sharp eyes, even Aisha didn't dare to argue with him. Aisha knew how important Staya was in Jilin's heart. She didn't have any other intentions. She just felt that Staya's room was next to hers. If Li Wuyu stayed in Staya's room, it would be more convenient for her to take care of her. As for Bane's room, it was not appropriate for a girl like Li Wuyu to stay in a man's room. But she didn't expect Jilin to have such a big reaction. Aisha dragged Li Wuyu out. "Batel, take care of her," Jilin suddenly said. "Yes, master." Batel immediately lowered his head and answered. "Okay." Jilin nodded. "Why aren't you leaving? There's something I don't understand." "What? What do you mean by take care of her?" "Just look after her. Don't let her get hurt. If she has any requests, try to satisfy them." "Okay, master. I understand." After Barter finished speaking, he turned into a ball of flame and disappeared with a bang. "Do you really understand?" Jilin looked at Batel, who had already left, and felt uneasy. Li Wuyu sat on the bed in her room blankly. She was still holding a cup of purple tea and hesitating whether she should drink it or not. Aisha made this tea for her after she changed her clothes and showered. She said it could calm her nerves. Li Wuyu really wanted to drink something to calm her nerves. But according to the legends of the Saimai Empire, none of the princesses who drank the tea made by the witches had a good ending. It was said that one of them even slept for 20 years. It could calm her nerves. It could even calm her to death. Suddenly, a breeze blew through Li Wuyu's room. Pung! Barter appeared in front of Li Wuyu out of thin air with a flickering flame. He was the strongest creature born in this volcano and was favored by the heavens and earth. He could come and go as he pleased in this volcano because this was his world. "Ah!" Li Wuyu screamed. The cup in her hand fell to the ground and shattered into countless pieces. Now she didn't have to worry about whether she should drink it or not. "You! Why are you here? What are you doing?" Li Wuyu looked at Barter, one of the 5 claws, with fear in his eyes. "Master ordered me to keep an eye on you," Batel said. Li Wuyu was shocked. She didn't know what was there to keep an eye on. With her abilities, she couldn't even be considered a first-rate expert in the Middle Empire. Was it worth it for one of the 5 claws to keep an eye on her? Here? Would she be able to make a splash even if she used all her strength? Since she was so important. It meant that the Red Calamity valued her status as a princess. In that instant, Li Wujiu was once again immersed in his unreasonable imagination. Chapter 457. You! Li Wuyu looked at Batel and felt that this Lord of Balrog would rush up and tear her into pieces in the next moment. Li Wuyu hugged her shoulders and looked frightened. She curled up into a ball and shivered. Batel stood 4 to 5 meters in front of her and looked at her expressionlessly without moving. He was like a red stone statue that could catch fire. Just like that, the scene froze for a while. "What the hell do you want?" Li Wuyu was finally able to speak after a long time. When a sheep was surrounded by a tiger, even if it was frightened to the point that its limbs would not listen to its commands, as long as the tiger did not eat the sheep would slowly recover. Now Batel was the tiger and Li Wuyu was the sheep without a doubt. "I'm following the orders of the Lord to watch over you," Batel said without hesitation. "How, are you going to watch over me?" Li Wuyu was a little confused. She felt that this 5 claws of the 10,000 Spirit Kingdom was a little silly. "Naturally, I'm going to watch over you like that," Batel said. "Oh." Li Wuyu's face turned ugly as if she had eaten a dead fly. "This, big brother? I don't think that's what your lord meant." "I know what my lord meant. You're just a human, so there's no need to say more." Batel was obviously very confident. "What did your lord say?" Li Wuyu decided to help this demon who was covered in flames analyze. "How can a human like you hear my lord's holy words?" Batel said angrily. "Sigh." Li Wuyu sighed and was completely speechless. She understood that this was Uncle Long's diehard and fanatical worshipper. She also understood one thing, and that was that she was safe now. Since he had asked someone to watch over her, he naturally did not want anything to happen to her. Li Wuyo's big eyes suddenly lit up and looked at Batel. She blinked her eyes lightly. Since she was safe, the demon princess of the Middle Empire was naturally curious about Batel, the strongest demon king under the Red Disaster. There were not many people who could see the myriad spirit nation's 5 claws at such a close distance. Not to mention the most mysterious and also the strongest flame demon minister. Li Wuyo looked at Batel, and Batel naturally didn't back down. Are you just going to look at me like that? Master's orders cannot be disobeyed. Then, why don't you sit down and rest? No need. No matter what, you're still the head of the Flame Demon Division. Aren't you busy? Why do you keep looking at me? I'm not busy. Don't you need to care about that many flame demons? No need. Master is here. But from what I saw just now, this place is heavily guarded. Every path is patrolled by flame fiends, and there's no pattern to it at all. It's clearly the work of a defensive expert. You didn't do this? Could it be that it was also done by your master? Patrol? What are you talking about? It's the flame demons on the streets. I see them walking back and forth. Aren't they patrolling? No, they're just wandering around aimlessly. Li Wuyo's face flushed red. She originally wanted to get some information from this seemingly silly 5-claw, but she didn't expect the other party to be so wary of her. So many high-grade flame demons just strolling around aimlessly all day, who would believe that? Cough cough. I heard you say that you want to help your master deal with the human corpses. Do you often do this kind of thing? Often. I deal with the human corpses that enter Master's palace. Batel's calm voice finally fluctuated a little. He seemed a little proud. How do you deal with them? I strip off their clothes, put the gold and other things on Master's treasure mountain, and then throw the clothes and the body into the magma. Ugh, Li Wuyo's face turned green. She almost vomited. She thought that the means of the myriad spirit kingdom would be cruel, but she didn't expect it to be so cruel. They didn't leave any dignity for people. Those who died here were all great heroes who wanted to get rid of evil for the human race. However, their fates were actually so tragic that it was unbearable to look at. How could she not be resentful? All these years, she hadn't heard of any human powerhouse who went to Mount Gerda and never came back. Your guards are so strict. I don't think many people can walk to your master, right? 1 year. No, 1 or 2 in 4 to 5 years. No, there are many. Batel's words interrupted Li Wuyo's hope. Why? Li Wuyo's eyes widened. She saw the guards of Red Dragon City just now. With that level of security and the horror of those monsters, even her granduncle might not be able to break through. How could there be many? Because many people come to find Master. You don't stop them? You let them pass through your underground palace? No, because they don't need to pass through Red Dragon City to reach Master. The biggest crater of this volcano leads directly to Master's holy palace. Humans who come to seek death usually go that way. Go that way. You actually left such a big gap behind you? And then let the human race assassinate the Red Disaster? Are you really not afraid of the Red Disaster? Don't you want to guard him? Master is invincible and can't be in danger. No matter how many humans come, they'll just die. Why do we need to guard him? That's not right. This is the deepest part of Mount Gerda. It's a forbidden area for humans. Normal powerhouses will die before they can reach here. How rare are the top powerhouses of humans? How can they come here to die? Oh. Regarding this matter, Master specially asked the Dwarf King and Aisha to work together to develop a fire-repellent talisman. Fire-repellent talisman? Li Wuyo was shocked. Her big eyes were as round as copper bells. She couldn't be blamed for being so shocked. It was because she had used it before. The fire-repellent talisman was a small red amulet that could block all heat as long as it was worn. It could let you feel the cool breeze on a hot summer day. It was loved by the human nobles. It was rumored that the third prince had 2 boxes of it in his personal treasury. However, it also had shortcomings. First, it was expensive and not affordable for ordinary people. Secondly, it was a one-time use item. One could only be used for 3 days. Everyone only knew that this item came from the Red Dragon Empire. They didn't expect that it was actually made by the Red Disaster, you mean? Li Wuyo seemed to suddenly understand something. The Red Disaster specially made a fire-repellent talisman to help the humans come here to die. Not only that, but it's also sold at a high price? Master's plan is flawless and extremely wise. Li Wuyo was speechless this time because it was just as Batel said. Uncle Dragon made a fire-repellent talisman and then sold it to the humans at a high price. The humans brought Uncle Dragon's fire-repellent talisman to kill Uncle Dragon, then, they put all their lives on the line here, then, the fire-repellent talisman could be recycled. Look at this business. Small capital and huge profits were not enough to describe it. No capital and huge profits. Uncle Dragon, you're really the Red Disaster of humans. As expected of you. Chapter 458. Batel, how long have you been here? A long time. How many years? What's a year? 365 days is a year. What's a day? The alternation of day and night is a day. Oh. I'm not too sure about that. I've never counted, and I rarely see the alternation of day and night. Why? Because there's no sunlight below the Red Dragon Palace. You've been staying down here all this time? Yes. Don't you want to go up and take a look? No, I'm not interested. You can't or don't want to. I can, but there's no need. Then don't you feel bored? What's boring? It's boring. What's boring? You're boring, why aren't you saying anything? Are you mute? Nothing, it's just that the Lord often says the same thing about me. Oh, then let's go out and play? Play, it means to do something interesting. The Lord told me to watch you, not to do anything interesting with you. You're boring. The Lord said the same thing. So what? I want to be an uninteresting creature, because whatever the Lord says is always right. You're ruthless. Can I see your finger? Why? It looks like it's made of stone. I'm curious. You can't. Why? Because the Lord didn't tell me to show it to you. Why do you always listen to your Lord? Because the Lord is always right. Damn, brother, you're really loyal. Then you won't do anything the Lord doesn't tell you to do? There's no need to do anything the Lord doesn't tell me to do. Okay. Why are you on fire? I was born this way. Oh. Can't you take the initiative to talk to me? You've been here for so many days. I'm always the first to speak. No, all right. It's not necessary, is it? Yes. Does your master usually order you to do many things? Very few. Then you won't do anything? Yes. How long have you been here? A very long time. Then, I want to ask you about someone. Who? The Holy Queen of the Saimai Empire, Staya. Have you heard of it? Why aren't you talking again? Master won't allow it. When did he stop you from talking? The Lord forbade anyone from mentioning anything about that person. You've seen her? Yes, I have. What kind of person is she? The Lord forbade me from mentioning it. Have you killed anyone before? I have. Are there a lot? How much is too much? 5, 10, 50? That's a lot, a lot. Why kill them? Because they entered my territory. Are they all like this? Not all of them. Then why? Did they offend you? No, it's just an order from the Lord. You really do listen to your master's every word. Yes. Don't you have any thoughts of your own? No. You're the fifth claw of the myriad spirit kingdom. You're second only to one person and above everyone else. How can you be like this? There's nothing wrong with it. Hey, let's go. Where to? To play. You'll be stupid. No, you're very stupid now. You're even more stupid than my big brother. Lord, your Lord asked you to watch over me. If you don't follow me, how can you watch over me? Yes. Middle Empire, Imperial Palace. Cunning Palace. There were no servants or guards in the Empress Palace at this time. Xueqing was sitting at the large round table in the hall. Her expression was indifferent as usual. She held up a cup of tea with a dignified and elegant temperament and sipped it. The elegant and rich tea fragrance spread in Xueqing's mouth. The tea was warm and had a sweet aftertaste. A faint smile appeared on Xueqing's face. You're still smiling? The third prince, who was anxiously walking around Xueqing with his hands behind his back, asked in surprise. The new tea from Miao County this year is much better than in previous years. It's a rare product. I don't have a lot here. Do you want to try? You still have the mood to drink tea at a time like this? The third prince's voice trembled, but he didn't dare to shout at Xueqing. He only whispered. Ingwu. Your Majesty. Do I still have the tea from Miao County this year? Yes. Go find someone and send them to the Empress. I have some family matters to discuss with the Empress. You don't have to worry about it for the time being. Yes. Xueqing. The third prince sat down next to the Empress as he spoke. He took the teacup and placed it on the table. He gently took the Empress's hand. I'll have someone send the tea to you later. I'll give you everything I have. Take your time and don't worry. Tell me first, why did you send Wuyo to Brother Long's side? Wuyo, that child. You put her with your uncle and let her run around the country. The name of the little devil has already spread to our ears, but you didn't do anything about it. Why can't you keep calm now? How can it be the same? As long as Wuyu stays in the Empire, she's still in her own family. Moreover, she's a girl and has her uncle watching over her. How much trouble can she cause? But it's different this time. You sent her to Brother Long's place. So what if I did? So what? Do you know? Know what? Don't you have a good relationship with him? Don't you know that he has a special fetish for princesses? He took away 2 princesses in just a few years. And they didn't end well. The first one has been dead for 20 years. The second one has lost her family in her country. She's still living in a foreign land. There's no news about her. Staya's death has nothing to do with him. Of course. But have you ever thought that Staya died in front of my eyes? I had a chance to keep her. Brother Long has always been dissatisfied with me because of this. It's only right. You know, but you still sent Wuyu there? Sigh. Xueqing shook her head and sighed. She gently patted the third prince's hand. You can't avoid the Wanling Kingdom now. Now, Brother Long's Wanling Kingdom occupies half of the world. It's on par with the human race. It's unrealistic to say that we don't communicate with each other. You mean, the Middle Empire wants to communicate with the Wanling Kingdom first? In fact, only we can do this. Why? We've been living in peace for so many years. There are 2 fishes in a small fish tank. Either they live in harmony or they bite each other to death. There's no way they can pretend not to see each other. Did someone say something to you? The orcs in the south are brave and aggressive. They regard humans as their mortal enemies. The leaders of the Wanling Kingdom suppressed millions of orcs for 20 years. Now, they can't suppress them any longer. Chapter 459. At the border of the Red Dragon Theocracy. In a huge primeval forest, the sunlight was dazzling, and the breeze was gentle. The transparent sunlight shone through the gaps between the branches and leaves. The sunlight fell on the brown soil, forming spots of light. The trees swayed with the breeze, and the spots of light moved with it. In an instant, they turned into dancing light spirits. The forest was filled with the aura of nature and life. It was thriving. In the middle of the lush forest, there was a quiet little path hidden. No one would have thought that this path, which could only accommodate 4 people walking side by side, was actually the national highway from the Divine Dragon Empire to the Middle Empire. On the crude national highway, a convoy was traveling in a straight line through the forest. The convoy was not long, only 6 or 7 cars. Each car was filled with 8 large wooden boxes. There were only 30 or so people in red robes following the caravan. They moved forward slowly in the forest, neither fast nor slow. However, they didn't notice that there was a group of people hiding in the forest some distance away from them, and they were watching them closely with their eyes wide open. "My lady. The people from the myriad spirit nation have arrived. I see them." A pleasant and gentle voice sounded. It turned out that the lady leading the team and hiding in the forest was actually a woman. "My lady, are those really the myriad spirit nations? Divine talismans? Are there only these few people escorting them?" "Yes, it doesn't look like it. If these cars are all divine talismans, wouldn't they be able to buy half the city? With just these 2 people? Aren't they just waiting to be robbed?" "Shut up!" the lady shouted. Although she was a woman, she was equally dignified. The dozens of men immediately became like quails, not daring to make a sound. Seeing that her subordinates had become obedient, the lady continued, "There are many high-level experts in the Red Dragon theocracy. They have sharp ears and eyes. Be careful not to let others hear you." "Yes, my lady." "As for whether they are divine talismans, this is the road from the Divine Dragon Empire to the Middle Empire. Apart from divine talismans, there are no other goods between the Middle Empire and the myriad spirit nation. Look at their cars. They look very heavy, but there are only shallow marks on the ruts. This means that there are very advanced arrays on the cars. Just these cars alone are worth a lot. So that's how it is. My lord's eyes are as bright as torches. I'm impressed. But since it's really a divine talisman, why are there only a few people escorting it? That's naturally because, for more than 20 years, no one has ever dared to target Wan Ling Kingdom's goods." As the Lord spoke, he laughed coldly. It was as if he was disdainful and contained boundless fury. "She was lying in ambush here because she wanted to steal the goods from the 10,000 spirit nation." "Sir?" "Then we." The lackey hesitated. "Do we really have to move?" "Nonsense." His Excellency glared at him. "Why are we here if we don't move?" "But..." The lackey hesitated. "You don't have to be afraid." Seeing the fear on his subordinates' faces, he could only say aloud. She knew how frightening the name of the myriad spirit kingdom was. It was normal for these fugitives, who had been bought with money, to be afraid. "You don't have to be afraid. No one will know that we did it because someone else did it." "Who?" the lackey asked in confusion. "He." His Excellency sneered. Then, he looked towards the west and uttered these words one by one. "The Middle Empire. His Excellency is indeed wise." The lackey laughed. His Excellency was naturally unperturbed by his subordinate's straightforward compliment. She looked to the west and seemed to see the red shadow in her heart. 20 years was too long. After scheming for so many years, the time was finally ripe. It was time for the world to be in chaos. "Red Calamity, I will definitely make you pay for what you've done. Even if the people were plunged into misery and suffering, even if the human race was exterminated. You have to die too." His Excellency's eyes were emitting raging flames when he looked at the cars of goods. "Red Dragon Palace Beast King, I really can't suppress the fighting spirit of the beast race anymore." Singh stood in front of Jilin and lowered his head as he said in a deep voice. Although 20 years had passed, the power of time didn't seem to affect Singh. His mane was still as smooth as silk, and his teeth were still white and sharp. What's the matter?" Jilin asked lazily. Nothing had happened for 20 years, and now something was going to happen? "Beast King, the reason for the ceasefire back then was to recuperate. Now that 20 years have passed, it should be about time for them to recuperate." "Oh." Jilin understood. "So the beast men are bored and want to fight?" Singh didn't respond for a moment. Although it was the truth, what he said, Beast King, the beast men have been oppressed by the humans for the past 1,000 years. Everyone has a grudge in their hearts. In the past, we could bear with it if we couldn't win. But now, the beast men all have the divine weapons of the dwarves, and they have sufficient food. If we don't fight, oh. Jilin really understood this time. I think it's not that you can't suppress the fighting spirit of the beast men. It's more like you want to fight. I don't dare. Sing was shocked and immediately knelt on the ground. I really can't do anything. Beast King, please understand. Sigh. Jilin sighed. After suppressing it for 20 years, you suddenly tell me that you can't suppress it anymore. There has to be a reason, right? You have to let me know what the straw that broke the camel's back is, right? Camel? Straw? Sing was confused. But fortunately, he had followed Jilin for many years. The Beast King would say something that no one could understand from time to time. He was already very familiar with this kind of thing. There was no need to think too much about the Beast King's words. It was fine as long as he understood what he meant. The reason is, the werewolf tribe's chief was assassinated. This matter is indeed my dereliction of duty. Please punish me, Beast King. Sing said painfully. The werewolf tribe's chief was assassinated. Jilin was stunned, and his eyes suddenly lit up with interest. In fact, this matter wasn't a big deal to him. Or rather, in this world, it wasn't a big deal to Jilin. But this matter was very interesting. If that's the case, no wonder. Jilin nodded slowly. How did he die? He was ambushed and killed by an assassin. Where? In our country's territory. Such a bully. I failed in my duty. Why did you kill him? At that time, he was carrying the fire marrow crystal that he wanted to offer to the Beast King. Jilin curled his lips in disdain and glanced at Sing. He thought to himself, this person was so nice and honest when I first met him. Now, he's saying such black-hearted things. Offering to him? What's the point of offering? The stones given by the beast men would at most pass through his hands once. Then, he would let the dwarf king take them away to forge weapons. In the end, they would go back to where they came from. The things were taken away by someone. Yes. Who did it? Do you know? Yes, it's the humans, the Middle Empire, the Shadow Guard. Chapter 460. Shadow Guard? Jilin repeated these two words. His gaze towards Sing became interesting. When did the orcs see a Shadow Guard? Beast King, we have never seen a Shadow Guard, but we have evidence. Evidence? Jilin leaned forward. What evidence? Sing took out a piece of black cloth and handed it to Jilin respectfully. Jilin reached out to take it. With his eyesight, he could see two small words embroidered on the black cloth with black thread. Shadow Guard. Jilin blinked his eyes and handed the cloth to Aisha, who was beside him. What do you think? Aisha took the cloth and rubbed it with her fingers. Very good. It's the best silk of the Middle Empire. Only the Middle Empire has this. Other human countries have not been able to replicate it. As for other non-human species, there's no need to think too much about it. Oh? Jilin said softly. He took a serious look at the strip of cloth and asked, is this thing that powerful? Not really. Aisha said, the main thing is that the craftsmanship of this thing is extremely troublesome. Although the texture is good and the touch is smooth, it's still just a piece of cloth. Other countries are too lazy to spend so much effort to learn it. Oh. Jilin nodded in understanding. This thing had the temperament of the Middle Empire. Those humans always like to enjoy these things. Aisha rubbed the two words carefully again. Excellent embroidery. The layout of the silk thread, the arrangement of the stitches, it's really exquisite. It's indeed the best technique. In the entire world, only the Middle Empire's Silk Bureau has such skills. This piece of cloth is indeed from the Middle Empire. Aisha looked at Jilin and said with certainty. Jilin glanced at Aisha. Before he could say anything, Sing had already knelt down and shouted. Beast King! The Middle Empire had gone too far. If they didn't take revenge, the entire Beastmen tribe would never be able to quell their resentment and anger. The werewolf tribe leader's spirit would never be able to rest. Beast King! Oh! Jilin pondered for a moment before turning to Aisha. What do you think? The werewolf chieftain might not be considered a powerhouse in your eyes, but under normal circumstances, he's definitely not weak. He's at the peak of the 8th step. In the human countries, they were known as the 36 ferocious beasts. In the territory of the 10,000 Spirit Kingdom, there are not many people who can kill such an expert. Got it. Jilin nodded. You also think that the Middle Empire did it? It's just that we can't rule out the possibility. What about you? Jilin looked at Sing. It must be the doing of the Middle Empire. Sing said. Impossible. Suddenly, a sweet female voice came from behind Sing. Ah. Sing was stunned. Then, a surge of anger rushed from the bottom of his heart to the top of his head. He was just discussing with Jilin about the orc race's attack on the Central Empire when suddenly, someone who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and wasn't afraid of death came out of nowhere to mess things up. Sing bared his teeth, and the hair on his head stood up. He looked ferocious as he turned around. However, the moment he turned around, he was stunned. He saw 2 figures standing at the entrance of the Chaos Temple. He was very familiar with both of them. One was Batel, who was also one of the 5 claws of the 10,000 Spirit Kingdom. He was Jilin's most trusted subordinate. The other was a person. It was easy to recognize her. Jilin also looked at Batel. Master. She said she's never seen an orc before. No matter what, she wanted to come and take a look. If she offended you, please forgive her. The Chaos Temple was silent for a full minute. It was really dead silent. Until Jilin reacted. Huh. Jilin, who was originally sitting on the pile of gold, stood up with a whoosh. He widened his eyes and looked at Batel with thousands of rays of golden light in his eyes. After looking at him for a while, he was sure that there was nothing wrong with this guy. Probably, this was really weird. When did this rock know how to talk? His thoughts and logic were quite clear. At least he was on the same channel as a normal person. You. What have you been doing these few days? Jilin asked in surprise. Following Master's orders, I've been watching over her. Batel said. Just watching? I even took her for a walk. Jilin raised his head slightly and thought to himself that this was it. He could even say that he took her for a walk. It seemed that humans really had the ability to influence rocks. My lord, this is. Sing looked at Li Wuyu and asked. In an instant, many possibilities appeared in his mind. Who was this woman? She didn't look strong, but how could she not die here? Why was Batel watching over her? This is, I'm the princess of the Middle Empire, Li Wuyu. Before Jilin could speak, Li Wuyu mustered up her courage and began to introduce herself heroically. She was going all out. Anyway, there was the red disaster here, the shadow of the 10,000 Spirit Nation, and 5 claws. Just this lineup alone was enough to make her die without leaving behind any ashes. Now that there was 5 claws and the Lion King Sing, it seemed that they were not worth mentioning. Princess of the Middle Empire? Sing was overjoyed. In his excitement, he even pulled out the blood-toothed sword. He didn't expect the Beast King to have expected this. He even held the Princess of the Middle Empire in his hands as a hostage without anyone knowing. He gave the orc such a big surprise. Beast King. I understand. Sing bellowed and prostrated himself on the ground. The muscles on his body were trembling with excitement. You understand what? Jilin didn't understand. I'll go back and gather the army. Drive into the Middle Empire. I'll kill this princess in front of the 2 armies and sacrifice her to the flag. Not bad. You're quite smart. Jilin's eyes were wide open. Unfortunately, Sing lowered his head and didn't see it. It's all thanks to the Beast King's careful nurturing. Come here. Jilin waved his hand. Beast King. Sing hurriedly trotted to Jilin's side and bent down to listen to Jilin's words. Sing vaguely heard Jilin say 2 words. Watch out for my fist. First, his abdomen was violently hit, followed by a burst of lightning. Then, there was a hit on his back. Sing almost couldn't breathe. His vision was pitch black. He struggled to get up but found that he couldn't move. After a while, Sing finally understood what had happened. He was ambushed by the Beast King. That was because Jilin's punch came right before those 2 words. Sing wasn't prepared at all. This punch landed squarely on his body. The main thing was that he didn't expect that with Jilin's strength, he would still need to ambush him. Li Wuyo watched from the side with her mouth wide open. She couldn't close it for a long time. Because she saw with her own eyes that the red disaster punched the 5 claws of the 10,000 spirit kingdom away. Lion King Sing flew out like a bolt of lightning and crashed into the hard glass wall. He was firmly embedded in it. Was this the strength of the 10,000 spirit kingdom's king? The 5 claws didn't even have the strength to fight back. It was so brutal. Just as Li Wuyo was shocked, she vaguely heard Jilin muttering at the side. What the hell? Killing a woman before a war, no style at all. What a disgrace. Chapter 461. Damn it, no matter what, you're still a Beast King. How did you end up like this? Why don't you learn something good after interacting with humans for so long? Why do you learn these embarrassing things? If you want to fight, then fight. Why are you talking about these useless things? What are you trying to do? Jilin looked at Sing, who was embedded in the wall, and said resentfully. Sing was still stuck in the wall. His whole body was in pain and he couldn't even say a word. Master, do you need me to get him out? Batel saw that Sing really couldn't get out, so he asked Jilin. No need, let him stay there for a while. He needs to calm down. He wants to fight too much. What the hell? Jilin scolded angrily. Aisha lowered her head slightly at the side. Light flashed in her eyes. Why is Jilin so particular about this? Don't kill women in front of 2 armies? Do you still remember how the fair-skinned woman from the Snow Wind Empire died? Didn't you kill her by piercing her abdomen with your hand in front of 2 armies? Style. Is this something a dragon like you should pay attention to? Besides, what's the difference between a man and a woman in your eyes? Aren't they all humans? Did you sleep for 20 years and damage your brain? What did you say is impossible? Jilin looked at Li Wuyo. Ah. Li Wuyo was shocked. It took her a long time to react before she replied, Ah, Uncle Dragon, I said that the Middle Empire would never ambush your people. You and my father are old friends. Oh? So, you're quite familiar with the Middle Empire's actions? Are you familiar with the Shadow Guard? Jilin looked at her from the corner of his eyes. Li Wuyo couldn't say anything. Because she wasn't familiar with the Middle Empire and the Shadow Guard's actions. She didn't know anything about it at all. She said it was impossible just based on her feelings. In fact, she didn't know if it was possible. Li Wuyo thought that if her brother was here, he would definitely be able to explain everything. But when it came to her, she didn't know anything. Li Wuyo didn't come up with anything after a long time. Sing, on the other hand, was panting. He struggled out from the wall and came before Jilin. Then, he slowly knelt down. Beast King. Jilin looked at Sing expressionlessly. What do you want? I don't believe you can't see through such a clumsy and obvious framing. Do you really want to avenge the werewolf chief? I don't remember beastmen being so vengeful. Haven't you always believed in the law of the jungle? The werewolf tribe's chief was killed. According to your ideology, you should think that it was because he was too weak, and then let the werewolf tribe choose a new chief. Sing was silent for a moment. Then, he said in a deep voice, Beast King, the death of the werewolf tribe's chief is not a big deal. However, the strength of the Beastmen tribe is unprecedentedly strong. Moreover, they are unprecedentedly united. As long as we have the support of the dwarves. If we can win, why not fight? Because it's not necessary. Jilin helped Sing up and said, previously, you wanted to fight because the life of the Beastmen tribe was too miserable. You needed a better living space. However, the space now is enough for you. Everyone can eat their fill and live a stable life. Since that's the case, why do you still want to fight? As long as it's a war, there will always be deaths. The warriors of the Beastmen tribe are not afraid of death. As long as they die in battle, that's the supreme glory. It's worth dying in battle for the survival of the tribe. However, it's not worth it for the desire to fight in the so-called glory. Beast King. Tisk, Jilin clicked his tongue. It's good enough that you can live a good life. There's no need to fight. But Beast King, our strength is now several levels higher than humans. Humans are now just a piece of meat in our mouths. How can it be that we don't eat the meat in our mouths? How can it not be that way? Jilin shook his head and said, humans raise chickens. They can kill the chickens for meat, but they don't eat them because the chickens can lay eggs for them. Humans raise pigs but don't kill them because pigs can kill piglets. Jilin patted Sing's shoulder and said earnestly, it's stupid to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. Sing stared with his bell-sized eyes and remained silent. He was obviously confused. But, humans are not chickens or pigs that we raise. In a sense, they are. Why? Let me ask you, how many beastmen are there now? Close to 10 million. So many beastmen. How do you think they're raised? Hunting, farming, you're kidding me. Jilin said disdainfully. You beastmen have such wooden brains. You can fight, but if you learn farming, it's as if your brains have been stolen. If we really rely on you to farm and hunt to feed yourselves, you'll starve to death long ago. If it weren't for humans feeding you, would you be able to breed so many? Humans? Beast King, don't the Red Dragon Theocracy send us food every year? What does that have to do with humans? The Red Dragon Theocracy, a bunch of fish-eating people. If they have the ability to grow food to feed you, that would be great. Then the food they send every year, isn't that money earned from selling the Fire Avoidance Talisman and the Cold Warding Talisman? The Red Dragon Chamber of Commerce earns money from humans and then buys food from humans to feed you? Now you're telling me that you want to fight the Middle Empire. Fine, you can fight the Middle Empire. You can fight and win. However, if you win now, you might not have to worry about food for a few years or even decades. But what about after that? Do you know how shocking the food production of the Middle Empire is? The Snow-Wind Empire is covered in snow and can't farm. The Red Dragon Theocracy loves eating seafood and is too lazy to farm. The Saimai Empire is barely self-sufficient. It can be said that the Middle Empire feeds more than half of the world's lives that need food. If you defeat them, then tell me, who will farm? You? Sing was stupefied. Jilin's words were like a giant axe that struck his head. It caused his whole body to tremble and he was enlightened. Beast King, I understand. I will go back now. If anyone dares to say that they want to fight the Middle Empire again, I will make them learn how to farm. After speaking, Sing was about to leave. Jilin suddenly said, wait a moment. Beast King, is there anything else? Since the werewolf patriarch was not killed by the Shadow Guard, then who did it? This. I don't know. You didn't investigate? This, the weak are prey to the strong, scram. Yes. Jilin looked at Sing's back and shook his head helplessly. As expected, taking revenge for the werewolf patriarch was just an excuse. The beast men didn't care at all, however, there would always be someone who cared. For example, the werewolf patriarch's son, if he had one. Lord, Flay is here. Batel suddenly said. Li Wuyo was stunned. He suddenly felt a little dizzy. What kind of luck was this? He was actually able to see 2 of the 5 claws in one day. And it was that famous traitor of the human race. Just as Bat-Tel finished speaking, a red figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Jilin. Red Dragon God. Flay had arrived. Why are you here? Jilin asked in surprise. Red Dragon God, the Middle Empire swallowed a batch of our goods and didn't pay us. Chapter 462. You are saying the third prince stole our things? Jilin walked in front of Flay and asked loudly. Yes, Flay lowered her head and said. This thing is the lifeline of our 10,000 spirit nation. We cannot lose it, that the third prince still can't change his way of doing things. He's not presentable. That's not right. We have been in tacit agreement for so many years. This is an unwritten rule. How could the third prince dare to? The chief of the orc and werewolf clans had just been killed. Your goods, which clown is messing with me? Red Dragon God? What did you just say? What did you say about the chief of the werewolf clan? It's nothing. It has nothing to do with you. Jilin waved his hand. Everything was clear now. Where did the goods go? They were taken away by the people of the Middle Empire, Flay said softly. What do you think? Jilin planned to test Flay's thoughts first. We can't lose this money. Then how do we get it back? Red Dragon God, do you want me to talk to the Golden King for you? Oh. Jilin looked at Flay and secretly sighed in relief. Fortunately, his subordinates weren't war maniacs like Singh. No need. I will go by myself. After saying that, Jilin raised his right hand. Somehow, Li Wuyo's arm appeared in Jilin's hand. Li Wuyo was shocked and instinctively wanted to pull her arm out. However, the one who grabbed her arm was Jilin. How could she struggle? Lord! Bat-Tel raised his hand slightly. Oh? Jilin was surprised. His eyes widened as he looked at Bat-Tel. He had been here for several hundred years and Bat-Tel had never spoken to him like this. What do you want to say? After being asked by Jilin, Bat-Tel was also stunned. What was he going to say? Bat-Tel was a little confused. He had never talked to Jilin about anything other than Jilin. He had always done whatever Jilin told him to do. In fact, this was the only way. Most of the elemental creatures in Mount Gerda were composed of only two elements. There was a large amount of fire element and a small amount of earth element. With Jilin's control over the fire element, these elemental creatures would have to do whatever he wanted them to do. Their lives and deaths were all in Jilin's hands. This was also the reason why the elemental creatures in the volcano would voluntarily submit to Jilin. However, Bat-Tel spoke up when Jilin grabbed Li Wuyo. Obviously, he wanted to go against Jilin's wishes. This was a first for both Bat-Tel and Jilin. Master. Bat-Tel was obviously a little flustered, but he didn't know where to start. After all, it was the first time he wanted to save someone from Jilin's hands. What? Jilin tilted his head. You don't want me to hurt her? Bat-Tel was silent for a moment, glanced at the flustered Li Wuyo, and finally nodded. Oh? Jilin was happy in his heart, but he still had a calm expression on his face. What if I want to kill her? I don't know. Bat-Tel lowered his head deeply. Sigh. Jilin looked at Barter and sighed softly. You are the leader of all living things in this volcano. You were born with the power of the earth. You should have achieved much more than this. It's just that you have no desire because of your race. Now that you finally have it, you have to experience it more. Yes, Master. Then, You don't have to worry, I'm just sending her home. Jilin smiled. She's a human after all, it's not good for her to stay here. After saying that, Jilin didn't wait for Bat-Tel's response and directly flew into the sky with a pair of wings on his back, heading straight for the Middle Empire. Aisha looked up and looked at Jilin's back in the world full of red light. She was deep in thought, and the light in her eyes flowed. She was not used to Jilin's sudden ability to use his brain. Jilin pulled Li Wuyo and flew wildly in the sky. At first, Li Wuyo was so scared that her face was pale and her eyes were tightly shut. But after a while, she began to carefully open her eyes. This was the height of the Red Disaster. The flight of the Red Disaster, it was a true soaring 90,000 miles. It would be fine if she didn't have this opportunity, but if she didn't experience it with her own eyes, Li Wuyo felt that she wouldn't forgive herself even if she turned into a ghost. Li Wuyo slowly opened her eyes. Then she realized that it was futile because the whole world became a blur in her eyes. The world flew rapidly behind her, and she couldn't see anything clearly. The flying process was very comfortable, and she felt as if she was lying on a soft, cloud-like bed. She didn't know where she was, and she didn't know where she was going. By the time she could clearly see what was in front of her and stand firmly on her feet, she actually saw her own father. The Golden King of the Middle Empire, the Emperor of the human race, Liu. Li Wuyo almost thought that she was seeing things. Why did she look around? She was sure that she was dreaming. She didn't know where she was, but it was as beautiful as the legendary paradise. A sea of clouds flowed slowly not far below her feet. The clouds flowed, and the sky and the sun were incomparably dazzling. She, Li Wuyo, had never seen the sky and the sun so closely. Wuyo. A call seemed to ring in her ears. Li Wuyo came back to her senses. Father? Li Wuyo's eyes slowly widened, and she felt that this dream was so real. Li Wuyo pinched her arm hard, then she pinched her thigh. It hurt, it wasn't a dream. Father! Li Wuyo shouted and rushed into the arms of the third prince. Father, why are you here? Where is this? This is the summit of the first mountain. The third prince gently patted Li Wuyo's back and said softly. The first mountain? The tallest mountain in the world? Li Wuyo was stunned. It used to be. The third prince smiled. His daughter didn't have any other skills, but she had a big heart. She still had the mood to look at the scenery at the summit of the first mountain at this time. Then why are you here, father? Why are you wearing a dragon robe when you're outside? Friends come from afar. Of course I have to come out to greet them, otherwise wouldn't it be rude? The third prince smiled and helped Li Wuyo up. Then, he tidied up the non-existent creases on his clothes, and looked at Jilin with eyes as warm as the spring breeze, and bowed solemnly. Brother Long, I didn't expect it to be so many years since we last met. It's really been a long time. To be able to sense my arrival so long in the capital and wait for me here in advance, you've grown in these 20 years. Haha, Brother Long flies in the sky like the sun, it's hard not to notice. Can we stop with the pleasantries? Jilin's tone suddenly became serious. Unexpectedly, the third prince actually shook his head. Brother Long hasn't come out for 20 years. It's rare for you to come out, so why don't you let me greet you? How? I'll treat Brother Long to a drink? Jilin paused for a moment. Enough? Of course. Okay. Chapter 463. In a tavern in a small city in the Middle Empire. The tavern wasn't big in this small city. It was 2 stories high, and the gray-white walls made it look simple and gentle. The brown door was wide open. Although it was broad daylight, customers were still coming in and out, making the place extremely lively. The floor of the room was made of stone, and there were 20 or so sets of tables and chairs arranged in a picturesque manner. Directly across from the door was the tavern's counter. The tavern owner stood behind the counter and chatted with his regular customers. From time to time, he would call out, "Waiter, bring the wine." At this time, business was good, and the tavern owner was so busy that he couldn't split himself. He wished he could grow 2 more hands. However, even though business was so busy, he still took time to glance at the table by the window in the corner whenever he had time, because the customer at that table was too eye-catching. A dignified man with a dignified appearance who gave people the impression that he had a successful career was currently toasting the person opposite him with a smile. And the person sitting opposite him was actually a young man. It was rare to see an elder toasting a younger person in the Middle Empire. What was even stranger was that there was a slim and graceful girl with an extraordinary temperament between the two. Her eyebrows were very similar to the middle-aged man's, and they seemed to be father and daughter, but if it was just this, it wouldn't have attracted the tavern owner who had seen countless customers coming and going every day. What made the tavern owner the most surprised was that young man's red hair. Brother Long, you haven't tasted the good wine of the Middle Empire for many years. When there's a chance in the future, I'll have someone send some to you. Okay. Jilin nodded with a smile. How is that Shuicheng girl now? Hey, how else could she be? She's the mother of the country. You didn't want another woman? With you matchmakers back then, how would I dare? Jilin looked at the third prince with a contemptuous smile. This isn't like you. Why? The third prince was stunned. There's a good saying among humans, a dog can't change its habit. How could you not find another woman for so many years? Back then, you... Cough cough. The third prince coughed exaggeratedly and hurriedly pressed Jilin's hand. Brother Long, the child is still here. Jilin and the third prince looked at Li Wuyu at the same time. Seeing this, Li Wuyu immediately revealed her sweetest smile. It's okay, Uncle Long, Dad, you can talk. I know everything about my dad when he was young, very well. Jilin squinted at the third prince. What a sin. The third prince was at a loss for words. He thought to himself, how can I compare to you when it comes to committing sins? The third prince glared at Li Wuyu. What you've heard is just a rumor. How can you take it seriously? Humph. Li Wuyu was not afraid of the third prince at all. Who in the capital dares to spread rumors about you? If it wasn't true, how could those people be so safe and sound? Childish. The third prince took a sip of wine and pretended to be calm. Only when the truth is revealed will one become angry out of humiliation. Since it's just a rumor, I naturally don't want to argue with them. As a king, can't I be magnanimous? Jilin looked at the third prince's final struggle with interest. He seemed to want to protect the non-existent dignity of a parent even at the cost of his life. Li Wuyu smiled maliciously. Then, father, do you still remember the fifth house in Green Sunflower Alley? Oh. The third prince's expression suddenly became very interesting. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot and his expression was as uncomfortable as constipation. I don't know. Strange, then why is the mistress of that house so familiar with me? Li Wuyu stared innocently with her big eyes. Then, do you know what the mistress of that house called me? The third prince didn't know. Nor did he want to know. He only knew that if he let Li Wuyu continue, he would lose all his face as a king in this small tavern and laughing town. Ahem. Brother Long, drink. The third prince very stiffly interrupted Li Wuyu's words and handed a big jar of wine to Jilin. The jar was really big, almost as big as the third prince's entire upper body. The men at the neighboring table kept glancing at the third young master. Although the third young master looked thin and weak, he was able to lift such a big jug of wine with one hand. In fact, there was no need for him to hand it over. Jilin had been drinking and hadn't stopped. The empty jars beside Jilin had already been piled up into a tower. After Jilin finished one, he would casually put down another one. Li Wuyu very sensibly picked up the empty jars and neatly stacked them up. The third prince saw that Jilin had finished the jar of wine that could kill a person in an instant. He put down the chopsticks in his hand and looked at Jilin seriously. If you keep drinking like this, will you get drunk? Jilin shook his head. I don't know. That's true. When I invited Brother Long to drink that year, no matter what, this one will definitely let Brother Long have a good drink today. The third prince finished and waved his hand. Then, a green-clothed man sat at the entrance of the tavern and ordered 2 dishes and a jar of wine. However, after a long time, he didn't touch the wine and didn't eat much of the dishes. He stood up and walked out. Since he invited Jilin to drink, the wine in a tavern was definitely not enough. Therefore, the third prince had already made preparations. Your people? Jilin asked with a smile. Brother Long, this one is no longer the same as before. Now, everyone in the Middle Empire is my people. The third prince shrugged in a very roguish manner. He didn't have the demeanor of a ruler at all. You know that's not what I meant. Jilin looked at the third prince. The third prince was silent for a moment. Everyone in this tavern with a cultivation base is my people. What? Jilin tilted his head. His eyes were slightly hazy, as if he was already a little drunk. Ambush me? Brother Long, you must be joking. The third prince poured a small cup of wine for Jilin and put it in front of Jilin. But I'm afraid that I can't take care of Brother Long well, so I prepared some capable people. As the third prince spoke, the green-clothed man had already moved several jars of wine and put them behind the third prince. Look, if it weren't for this person, the job of moving the wine would fall on me, right? Ha! 20 years have passed. Jilin suddenly said leisurely, when I caught Staya, I gave humans 10 years. You didn't disappoint me. Ming Shui godly weapon, a mobile city that can turn into a human shape, and you, the emperor of the human race who can use the fate of the entire human race. They're all very powerful. Even I would be surprised by them. Now that 20 years have passed, have you prepared any new methods to deal with me? Jilin looked at the third prince with a smile on his face. His tone was also very gentle. But the meaning in his words was chilling. Li Wuyo instantly shivered. Thinking of who said this, he shivered again. She only felt that the atmosphere at the table suddenly changed. Just a moment ago, they were just ordinary old friends reuniting and talking about the past. But now, they were suddenly at daggers drawn. Chapter 464. Faced with Jilin's questioning, the third prince was clearly prepared. If I say no, Brother Long, I'm afraid you won't believe me, right? Of course. Jilin smiled. You humans know that two tigers cannot live on the same mountain. You are weak and lack a sense of security. I am by your side every day, how can you not be prepared? Do you have it or not? Yes. The third prince said. Try? Jilin smiled. Brother Long, there's no need to try. The third prince drank a mouthful of wine. You and I can still drink and chat happily at the table. Why do you have to do this? The third prince, you still. Jilin drank a jar of wine and suddenly stood up. He pointed at the third prince and then looked at Li Wuyo. In the end, he didn't say anything and slowly sat down. The third prince was confused by Jilin's actions. The third prince stared at Jilin for a long time and said slowly, Brother Long has changed a lot in 20 years. Why do you say that? Jilin asked. Brother Long used to be the kind of person who would say whatever he wanted to say and do whatever he wanted to do. He wouldn't be like now, worrying about everything. Jilin was silent for a moment and then drank another jar of wine in the blink of an eye. After a moment of silence, he said, Time has a great power. It can change a lot. After all, 20 years have passed. 20 years, isn't it just a snap of the fingers in your eyes? Besides, haven't you been sleeping for the past 20 years? Ah. Jilin looked at the third prince, his eyes full of meaning. I didn't sleep well. I kept waking up. Hearing this, third young master was stunned, while Li Wuyo jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Uncle Long. You also have insomnia? Jilin smiled. Logically speaking, that shouldn't be the case. It's just, because of some things. What's the matter? Jilin shook his head and said nothing. The third prince's expression was extremely ugly. What could possibly make the dragons, who were known for their insomnia, unable to sleep well? Naturally, it was because of the death of the princess. It was clear at a glance. Brother Long, 20 years ago. Jilin raised his hand to stop the third prince. After so many years, I understand that it's not your fault. It's her own choice. If you really want to blame someone, it's me. Brother Long, that's enough. It's time to get down to business. Ah, what's wrong with her? Jilin pointed at Li Wuyu. She. The third prince glanced at Li Wuyu, then shook his head and sighed. Our family is unfortunate. How could Li Wuyu accept the third prince's words? She immediately glared at him. Of course not. Jilin also echoed, of course, she's much stronger than you, the third prince. She's at most careless now. You were the one who suffered from a cold. Brother Long. Careless? Jilin was interrupted by the third prince and his daughter. Jilin wasn't angry. If you didn't acquiesce, how could she come here so easily? Actually, I don't know about this matter. It's mainly Xueqing's idea. The third prince said. Oh? Jilin was slightly surprised. What does she mean? She wants the human race to establish diplomatic relations with the Thousand Spirit country. The third prince said. Jilin's hand paused. Haven't we always communicated with each other? She wants it on the surface. The third prince said. On the surface? Jilin thought for a moment. It's impossible. I agree. The third prince nodded. Why? Obviously, Li Wuyu didn't think so. Why can't the Thousand Spirit country establish diplomatic relations with the human race? The Thousand Spirit country isn't full of demons and ghosts. It's not a problem for the human race to live in harmony with the Thousand Spirit country, right? Ha! The third prince shook his head and laughed. She's talking nonsense. Brother Long, please don't laugh at me. How is it nonsense? Father, you can drink and chat with Uncle Long. Why can't the people of the Middle Empire shake hands and make peace with the people of the Thousand Spirit country? Niece, it's easy for you to say. Jilin looked at Li Wuyu. Niece, I know you have a good relationship with Batel. You're really amazing to be able to enlighten a stubborn stone in just a few days. However, it's 10,000 times more difficult for the Thousand Spirit country to establish diplomatic relations with the human race. I don't believe you. The reason why you can communicate with Batel is that Batel has no love or hatred in his heart. He has no prejudice against you or any other creatures. However, in the Thousand Spirit country, there are only a few people like him. Li Wuyu looked at Jilin and blinked her big eyes. Then the other 5 claws, are all prejudiced against humans? Your child doesn't study history? Jilin looked at the third prince in surprise. Yes. This child doesn't like to study since she was young. You don't tell her stories? Your stories aren't suitable for little girls. Then you haven't heard any rumors in the martial arts world? You know so much about the rumors about your father. You must have some connections. This. Li Wuyu was silent for a moment. I don't know why, but the people in the martial arts world are all tight-lipped about the Thousand Spirit country. Therefore, although the Thousand Spirit country is huge, people don't know much about it. However, there's a legend that is widely spread in the martial arts world. After Li Wuyu finished speaking, she kept stealing glances at Jilin. Jilin smiled. What legend? Legend. Uncle Long, did I tell you? You can't blame me if I tell you. Yes, of course, Jilin said. Legend has it that the Red Disaster, the ruler of the Thousand Spirit country, has a godlike power. His ears can see all sounds. Therefore, people can't call his name directly and can't criticize the Thousand Spirit country. Otherwise, there will be natural disasters. Oh, that's great. Jilin laughed. Where did this come from? It should be the Red Dragon Theocracy, the third prince said. Niece, from this legend, you should know that humans are afraid of me. If that's the case, why would humans communicate with something they are afraid of? That's because humans misunderstand you. You and Batel are not scary. Li Wuyu's words stunned both Jilin and the third prince. If these words were heard by the veterans who participated in the crusade against the Red Disaster 20 years ago, they would probably cry. Jilin shook his head and laughed. He was too lazy to talk to Li Wuyu. Jilin turned to look at the third prince and asked, "Do you know that a werewolf chief of the orc clan died?" The third prince shook his head. "Sing told me that your people did it." Jilin narrowed his eyes and his gaze became as sharp as a knife. The third prince's expression didn't change. He didn't even raise his eyebrows because he knew what was going on. If Jilin really believed that he was the culprit, then the two of them definitely wouldn't be drinking here. That's a small matter. There's another matter that's more troublesome. Brother Long, please tell me. This batch of goods is lost. It's in the Middle Empire. The third prince finally frowned. After thinking for a while, he looked at Jilin and said, "It's not lost." "It's not lost?" Jilin asked. "It's not lost." The third prince was certain. "I took the goods. I'll send the money to Brother Long in a few days." "Oh, then which of your subordinates took the goods?" "This. I'll have to ask." "Brother Long, don't worry. I'll take care of this matter." "No, let me do it. It's more convenient for me." "Brother Long, this is a matter of the Middle Empire." "No, this is between you and me." "Brother Long, it's not convenient for you to do this." "It's not worth it." "It's worth it." The third prince, "Are you trying to stop me?" Chapter 465. The third prince and Jilin both stood up at the same time. Their eyes were locked on each other, and neither of them was willing to take a step back. The atmosphere in the entire tavern instantly quieted down, giving people the feeling that a fight could break out at any moment. The three people who were originally chatting enthusiastically stopped talking at this moment. They all moved their feet lightly and arched their backs slightly, ready to pounce at any time. Customers like this made up the majority of the tavern. It was unknown whether they were going to pounce on Jilin or the third prince. Although most of the people here were the third prince's men, it was still a tavern after all. The third prince didn't ask people to clear the place, so there were still ordinary people in the tavern who didn't know the situation. Ordinary people who came to the tavern were either to drink with their friends or to savor life by themselves, or to drown their sorrows in alcohol. It was very rare to see people savoring life or drinking with their friends in broad daylight, so the only thing left was to drown their sorrows in alcohol. Most of these people had already drunk the whole night. They didn't leave at this time because they thought they were in bed at home, not to mention north, south, east, and west. They probably couldn't even remember who they were. No ordinary person could understand the behavior and way of thinking of these people. At this moment, there was such a person who was awakened by the sudden silence. He opened his sleepy eyes and the first thing he saw was the small mountain of wine jars behind Jilin. Even though he had a splitting headache, the tavern patron was still shocked. He had never seen so much wine in his life, let alone drink it. Moreover, how could a person drink so much wine? It was enough to drown a person. The tavern patron staggered towards Jilin and reached out his hand towards Jilin. Fortunately, his left leg tripped his right leg and his body leaned forward. His hand finally fell on the table in front of Jilin, supporting himself in the nick of time. Jilin glanced at this person and then at the third prince. The meaning in his eyes was very clear. What did he mean? The third prince looked at this delirious tavern patron and frowned slightly. He thought to himself that he should have cleared the place at that time. All this wine, 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 are you the only one who's drinking it? The drinker's tongue didn't seem to work anymore, but he still expressed his meaning clearly. Before Jilin answered, the drinker waved his hand again. "No, no. Impossible. Let's have another drink." Jilin ignored him. "Oh? What? Old Sue, saw that you can hold your liquor well and thought that you were a real man. I want to make friends with you." "What? Are you looking down on me?" He didn't know why the man was so angry, but his face was flushed red. Perhaps it was because he was agitated, but his tongue suddenly became nimble. Jilin still ignored him and didn't even look at him. The man was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. F***ck, you little bastard. So arrogant. Didn't your parents teach you how to behave? Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents. Kid, remember this well. I am Sully of the Whitewell gang. After today, you can ask around. Who dares to not give me some face within a 50-li radius? The man roared as he announced his name. Then, he raised his hand. It seemed that he wanted to hit Jilin's head. Jilin finally glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. Take him down. The third prince suddenly shouted. The two drinkers who had been observing the situation from the side instantly turned into two shadows and flashed behind the man. They grabbed the man's arms from both sides. At the same time, they hit the back of the man's head. Their movements were skillful and delicate. Obviously, they had done this hundreds or thousands of times. Take him away. The third prince said. Yes. Jilin watched the man being taken away. He looked at the third prince and sneered. I heard that the Middle Empire was a country of etiquette and manners. The people there are simple and honest? The third prince laughed awkwardly. Who said that? It's exaggerated. Didn't you say that in the past? Jilin looked at the third prince strangely. The third prince's smile became even more awkward. As for Li Wuyu, she was already scared stiff by the drinking man. She sat on the stool and couldn't get up. She thought to herself, what kind of person is this? He actually drank so much that he wanted to slap the king of Myriad Spirit Nation, Red Calamity. Li Wuyu had been in the Jianghu for many years and had never heard of someone like Su Li. And what kind of gang was the Whitewell gang? With someone like Su Li, it shouldn't be unknown in the Jianghu. It should be comparable to the Sword Saint's Sword Mountain. No matter what, this time, it was probably a big matter. The third prince. Jilin said. Brother Long, please speak. The third prince was extremely attentive. You see, that person just now treated me like that. His words were offensive, but I didn't do anything to him, right? Yes, yes, yes. The third prince nodded, but he didn't think so in his heart. In his heart, he thought, if I didn't speak quickly, that person would have died. No, he would have died without leaving a trace. If I had done this back then, yes, 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 if I had done this back then, this town would have been destroyed. Brother Long, I thank you. The third prince cut off Jilin's words and raised his wine cup to toast Jilin. Jilin looked at the third prince and smiled without saying anything. The third prince was silent and could only put down his wine cup resentfully. Brother Long, what do you want? I will deal with the person who took my goods. Brother Long. The lives of the people are not easy. If the thief is guilty, what about the people of the Middle Empire? If Chief Long insists on doing this, don't be agitated. Don't worry, I won't tear down your houses and the innocent people won't be hurt. How about it? Brother Long, don't lie to me. The third prince didn't believe him. Can you tell if someone is innocent or not? Jilin nodded. Brother Long, don't frighten the people of my country, okay? Back then, my seventh brother's death. You know? I didn't know back then, but the fireball falling from the sky and the death of 2,000 soldiers. After so many years, if I still can't figure it out, you are underestimating me. No problem, I promise you. Then, Brother Long, please do as you wish. Well, the orcs can be considered as being raised by the Middle Empire. I owe you a favor for this, Jilin said. No need, it's just a mutual benefit, the third prince said. Jilin nodded. Without any movement, he soared into the sky and disappeared in a stream of light. The third prince looked at the big hole in the tavern's canopy and felt very uncertain. The main thing was the few houses that Brother Long mentioned. How many houses were they? He didn't want to flatten a city and then say that it was only a few houses, Your Majesty. The third prince's subordinate called softly beside the third prince. The third prince said softly, investigate this person's background and the Whitewell gang. Father? You suspect that the drunkard is up to no good? Heh. The third prince smiled contemptuously. Just when I invited Brother Long to drink, such a drunkard appeared. How can there be such a coincidence? The third prince's hand paused as he spoke, and the wine cup in his hand suddenly shattered into pieces. But this place wasn't Father's last-minute idea. If it was really a scheme, how could it be? Humph. The third prince touched Li Wuyo's head, his eyes full of love. Do you really think that father dares to invite Brother Long to drink in any random place in the Middle Empire? Chapter 466. Li Wuyu was dumbfounded. She looked around and asked the third prince suspiciously, Father, is there anything unusual here? Of course, the third prince grabbed the wine jug and took a sip. There's a huge killing machine buried underground. It's the crystallization of the Middle Empire and Snow Wind Empire's joint efforts over the past 20 years. Only here can Father have the power to fight with Brother Long. Father, you want to fight with Uncle Long? Ha, I don't want to. The third prince shook his head gently. Even with 20 years of preparation, facing Brother Long, with the strength of a human, who dares to say that they can win? In a small city in the east of the Middle Empire. In a small wooden house with poor lighting. No one would have thought that there were dozens of people hiding in a simple wooden house in this remote and sparsely populated place. Dozens of people and dozens of boxes almost occupied all the space in this wooden house. And this was the result of stacking the boxes as high as they could. Dozens of men casually spread some straw on the shabby floor and lay on the ground in a disorderly manner. There was almost no place to stand on the ground. They were all sleeping in their clothes and some were snoring thunderously. But from the occasional opening of their eyes, they didn't seem to be sleeping soundly. Although there were many people in the room, they were all silent. They seemed to be waiting for something. It could be someone, or it could be a suitable time. Damn it, how long do we have to stay here? A man seemed to be unable to bear the loneliness and suddenly sat up. Looking at the people around him, he sullenly asked, Why are you in such a hurry? Lie down. The person lying beside the man grabbed the man's collar and pressed him back down. Why are you in such a hurry? Are you looking for death? This time we're moving the goods from Wanling country and the Middle Empire. If we don't hide for a few days, who dares to show up? At least wait for the news to die down. After the man said this, the wooden house suddenly quieted down. Even the deliberate snoring became much softer. Then, we're moving the goods from Wanling country. No one knew where this voice came from, but no one knew who said it. But from the trembling and hoarseness of his voice, everyone could tell that he was very scared. In fact, he was not the only one. The name of the 10,000 Spirit Nation was too well known among the human race. It was almost like a mythical country of demons, which made people afraid. Actually, everyone was feeling a little uneasy in their hearts. Now that someone had said this, they felt even more uncertain. The air was filled with an uneasy atmosphere. Shut up. A deep voice rang out. What's the point of being afraid now? We have already run far away, and this place is so remote, no one will find us. A man lying on the bed with a steel knife in his hand said aloud. Once he said that, the atmosphere in the wooden house suddenly calmed down. It was obvious that this person had a lot of prestige here, and his words carried a lot of weight. Everyone was lying on the ground, but he was the only one lying on the bed. This alone was enough to prove that this person was not ordinary. Moreover, this person also looked like a ruthless person. He was more than 8 feet tall, had a square face, and a stocky build. When he lay on the bed looked a lot smaller. The muscles on his bare upper body were clearly defined. Not only that, the most ruthless thing was that this person's upper body was tattooed with a long green dragon. The dragon was very lifelike, and it coiled around the man's upper body like a pillar. The tail was at his waist, and the head of the dragon poked out from his shoulder, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. This person was the top adventurer in the eastern part of the Middle Empire, Frenzied Blade Azure Dragon, Lu Zhen. Seeing that everyone had quieted down, Lu Zhen continued, Don't panic, I don't believe that anyone can find. Dang dang dang. Dang dang dang. The sudden knocking on the door stopped Lu Zhen's words abruptly, and so did all the other sounds in the wooden house. Everyone immediately got up, their hands on their weapons, and their eyes fixed on the door. He was ready to attack at any moment. These were all men who walked on the edge of swords all year round. Even though they felt uneasy, they still had the decisiveness to fight to the death in times of crisis. Lucian also got up from the bed, his hand gripping his long blade tightly. However, he didn't seem to be as nervous as the others. He was the strongest warrior here. Even if it was the Middle Empire's army outside, with so many cannon fodders here, he was confident that he could escape, as long as the legendary Shadow Guard wasn't among them. Lucian glanced at everyone, indicating that they shouldn't panic or act rashly. Then, he turned to the door and asked in a gentle voice, "Who is it? Open the door." The person outside the door spoke in a calm voice, without a trace of nervousness. His words were spoken in a matter-of-fact manner, as if opening the door was a natural thing to do. It didn't seem like a large group of soldiers had come to investigate, but more like his own father had come to visit. Lucian pointed his finger upwards. A skinny man suddenly jumped up along the wall. His figure was like a ghost as he silently climbed up to the roof. Looking out through the gap in the roof, he pointed his finger down and made a 1 sign. There was only one person. Lucian was even more puzzled. "Who are you?" Lucian asked. "This place is extremely poor. If you want to borrow a bowl of water, that's fine. But if you want to borrow a bowl of rice, then I'm sorry. Are you going to open the door or not?" The voice sounded from outside the door. Lucian's expression was uncertain. "If you don't state your identity, we won't open the door." TSK. Crack. There was the sound of tongues clicking, followed by the sound of wood breaking. The wooden door had been forcibly torn down by someone. A large piece of the wall had also been pulled down. Lucian didn't see who it was, but it didn't matter if he did or not. As soon as the door was torn down, Lucian roared, "Kill!" Several sharp arrows whistled through the air as they flew towards the door. Lucian stared at the wooden splinters flying around the door, his hand gripping his long blade tightly. He had to see the situation clearly and make a decision. Should he cut down the intruder with his blade, or should he turn around and leave? The person at the door walked in. The arrows disappeared before they could even get close to him, leaving only a few wisps of smoke floating in the air. The intruder slowly walked in. The dozens of fugitives in the room didn't act rashly. They just stared at him. This person's aura was clearly unfathomable. No one wanted to test the waters first. "Who are you?" someone in the crowd asked. Red. Red hair and golden eyes. Red hair and golden eyes? That's Red Calamity. Red Calamity? Impossible. How could this be? How could— Boom! The voices from the crowd exploded like thunder. The dozens of men instantly fell into chaos. Ping, ping, pang, pang. The sound of weapons falling to the ground filled the air. No one cared about the weapons that they treasured as much as their lives. They all wanted to make themselves lighter so that they could run faster. They didn't want to be faster than the Red Calamity. They only wanted to be faster than their companions. That way, they might be able to escape while the Red Calamity was eating the others. Jilin watched as the people in the room scattered like birds and beasts. He didn't do anything, but his eyes widened slightly, golden light flashed, and the dozens of people prostrated themselves on the ground. Not a single one of them could move. "How dare you touch my things?" Jilin looked at these people as if he was looking at dust. However, he had a cheerful smile on his face. His tone was light, and he didn't seem angry at all. "If you have any last words, just say them in your hearts a few times. I don't want to hear them, and I won't help you pass them on." Chapter 467. Alright, you can all recite it now. Jilin nodded with a smile, then slowly walked forward towards the dozens of boxes stacked high in the center of the room. Jilin walked in a straight line. Along the way, all those who could block his path and possibly touch him all began to spontaneously combust without warning. Moreover, they only burned for a moment before turning into a wisp of green smoke. This way of dying caused everyone in the wooden room to shudder. This was an incomparably silent and sudden death. It was as if the god of death had always been standing behind you, and could suddenly appear at any moment to give you a cold hug. No one could withstand this kind of fear. They wanted to run, they wanted to beg for mercy, but their bodies refused to listen to their brains. Under Jilin's pressure, they were unable to move. Jilin circled around his goods, then looked at them and said, "Who told you to touch my things? Why did you leave them here? Don't you know that I can sense the location of every single one of them?" When Jilin said this, many people revealed looks of disbelief. If the Red Disaster could sense the location of the fire avoidance talismans, then their actions were tantamount to suicide. Seeing everyone's shocked expressions, Jilin paused for a moment, then smiled and shook his head. "What idiots! It looks like you've been tricked." Jilin casually picked up a person from the ground, then looked him in the eye and asked, "Who told you to do this?" That person's eyes were filled with fear, like a rabbit being held down by a tiger, but for better or for worse, he was a reckless person who had experienced life and death situations before, so he wasn't scared to death. Tch, Jilin casually burned the person into green smoke, then walked in front of Lu Jin. "I can sense that you're the strongest human here. Are you the leader?" Jilin casually stood in front of Lu Jin, looking at him. Lu Jin didn't move at all. Jilin looked into Lu Jin's eyes, then retracted his pressure. "You, kill." Jilin had only spoken a single word when Lu Jin, who was facing him, suddenly let out an explosive roar. Lu Jin had actually broken free from Jilin's pressure. No, it could be said that he was not completely suppressed by Jilin's pressure. The person who was suppressed by Jilin's pressure. In fact, they were all frightened by the fear that emerged from the bottom of their hearts. Their hands and feet did not listen to them. For humans, facing Jilin's might for the first time was the most shocking. Even someone like Sword Saint would stop in front of Jilin for a few seconds the first time he met Jilin. However, when humans faced Jilin for the second time, the effect of the pressure would be reduced. Lu Jin wasn't completely suppressed because he had seen Jilin in action before. This was also the main reason why he had chosen to take on this task. Lu Jin's only miscalculation was that he didn't expect the red calamity to descend upon him. When he saw Jilin's red hair and saw everyone's reaction, Lu Jin knew that he was done for today. There was no way he could escape alive from the red calamity. He was fully aware that his future fate was like a river, clear and irreversible. Logically speaking, he should have accepted his fate. However, he was unwilling. He looked at the red calamity with eyes full of anger. He didn't want to die peacefully and humiliatingly at the red calamity's hands. Thus, Lu Jin's anger grew, and his courage grew. Even a rabbit would bite when cornered, let alone Lu Jin. When a person was cornered, their mind would become muddled and their courage would grow. Thus, in an instant, Lu Jin made an unwise decision. Before he died, he would slash the red calamity with his blade. However, even if he was one of the strongest humans in the world, it was impossible for him to do so under normal circumstances. In this moment of crisis, Lu Jin came up with an idea. He pretended that he couldn't move and waited for the red calamity to be caught off guard, then he would slash the red calamity. Lu Jin knew that the red calamity wouldn't die from a single slash, but it would be good to make it bleed a little. Everything seemed to be going according to Lu Jin's plan. The red calamity was actually standing right in front of him, completely defenseless. How could he miss such a heaven-sent opportunity? In an instant, every muscle on Lu Jin's body moved, and the azure dragon tattoo on his body seemed to come alive, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, its mane fluttering in the wind. Clang! The crisp sound of a blade rang out, followed by 10,000 rays of cold light that illuminated the entire wooden house. This was the culmination of Lu Jin's entire life's worth of cultivation. All of his strength, all of his cultivation, and all of his understanding of the blade were in this one slash. Die! At such a close distance, Lu Jin could reach with a wave of his hand, not to mention the fact that he was a famous powerhouse of the 8th step. Lu Jin's blade arrived before Lu Jin. The terrifying steel blade carried with it the power of wind and lightning as it landed on Jilin's shoulder. However, it didn't even leave a scratch on Jilin's clothes. Lu Xun's eyes widened, and he even forgot to breathe for a moment. He was completely frozen in place. At this point, Jilin had finished what he hadn't said before. Your dragon is pretty good looking. Where did you get it? Lu Xun raised his head to look at Jilin in a daze. His eyes slowly regained their focus, and an aura of extreme despair emanated from him. Why? Why can't I even cut through your clothes? Although Jilin's clothes looked light and soft, they were actually formed from the extremely dense fire element Jilin had condensed into them. Not to mention that they were impervious to blades and swords. At the very least, those below the 9th step would find it difficult to injure them. However, Jilin couldn't be bothered to explain this to him. Thus, Jilin only said one sentence. Because you're too weak. Ah. Jilin's ridicule had deeply infuriated Lu Xun. Lu Xun frantically tried to push his blade down, but it couldn't go any further. Enough. Jilin reached out and flicked the blade away, then grabbed Lu Xun. The blade spun in the air, then landed on a person's body. Ah. Tisk tsk tsk. Jilin glanced at the unlucky bastard and shook his head lightly. He then looked at Lu Xun. You've seen me before? Where did we meet? Why do you hate me so much? Lu Xun's eyes turned red. 22 years ago, I met you at Calm Wind Pass. At the time, I was still a young adventurer, and I went to help Calm Wind Pass. Later, Calm Wind Pass was destroyed by your hands. Big Sister Lin, Big Brother Zhou, and Big Brother Lu died in the claws of the Sea Tribe. Red Calamity, I've been thinking about you day and night for the past 20 years. I want nothing more than to bite you to death. Forget it, Jilin said disdainfully. Biting isn't something humans are good at. Why don't you tell me who ordered you to do this? Who's the one behind you? You think I'll tell you? Lu Xun roared. Remember this, Red Calamity. There will be a day when someone will make you pay for what you've done. Your doomsday is upon you. The day of your retribution is coming. When the time comes, you'll be killed in the cruelest way possible. Your corpse will be chopped into pieces. Your dragon head will be placed on the city gate of Divine Dragon City and then laid on it as a decoration. You'll be seen by humans for countless years as a loser. Just you wait, Red Calamity. This is the curse that we, the undead under your claws, have placed on you. It will come true, and it's coming soon. Lu Xun's expression became incomparably malevolent. He was cursing Jilin with his life. Jilin looked at Lu Xun and thought for a moment. Divine Dragon City? Jilin suddenly understood. You're saying that the person behind you is someone from the Divine Dragon Empire, right? Lu Xun looked at Jilin, then a strange sound came from his throat. Chapter 468. Someone from the Divine Dragon Empire. Jilin rubbed his chin. Back then, I think I was the one who broke into Divine Dragon City. I can't remember clearly. Was it me? Jilin thought for a while but could not remember clearly. Hence, he looked at Lu Xun and asked. He knew that humans remembered such things more clearly than he did. Lu Xun did not answer. He only looked at Jilin with bloodshot eyes as he panted and gritted his teeth. When Jilin saw this, he understood that Lu Xun was most likely the one who did it. Jilin pondered for a moment and finally remembered. Back then, when Calm Wind Pass was broken, the Red Dragon Church took advantage of the chaos to rise up. Everything went smoothly. However, when the Red Dragon Church attacked Divine Dragon City, they met with extremely firm obstructions. They probably fought for a long time but could not take it down. Then, Xiaochen passed by and helped them. However, the problem was that Flay had told Xiaochen that none of the Divine Dragon Empire's royal clan survived. In that case, where did this Divine Dragon Empire person come from? Could he be a noble minister? If the royal clan died, there was no need for him to do so. Could he be an extremely patriotic person? That's impossible. Back then, the Divine Dragon Empire's citizens were seething with resentment. When the Red Dragon Church changed dynasties, they received widespread support from the citizens. Furthermore, the Red Dragon Empire had been established for 20-odd years. Nothing major had happened, and the people were at peace. This meant that there were no internal conflicts. The people still accepted the Red Dragon Church. In that case, there was only one possibility. Someone from the Divine Dragon Empire's royal clan escaped. Jilin figured it out. The Divine Dragon Empire's royal clan should not have been able to escape Flay's pursuit. However, there was one exception. Back then, Xiaochen captured the Divine Dragon Empire's princess, a black-haired woman. Back then, that person was suspected to be the son of the human dragon. Hence, Jilin personally captured her. However, after communicating with the Elf Queen, Qilin knew that this world would be destroyed by him one day. Therefore, Qilin no longer cared about being the son of a human dragon. So much so that when this person was rescued by Aisha and Bane, Jilin did not ask further and did not pursue the matter. Even when Aisha and Bane came to Jilin again, Jilin didn't mention anything about that woman. Bane wondered why Jilin didn't ask. But since Jilin didn't ask, he wouldn't bring it up himself. Oh? A princess of the Divine Dragon Empire, right? Jilin asked Luzhin. What's her name again? This time, Luzhin had learned his lesson. He stared at Jilin without saying a word. Forget it. Anyway, we already know who it is. The name is not important. Jilin was very open-minded. I have one last question for you. Humph. Luzhin snorted. Have you learned about curses? Huh. Luzhin looked at Jilin strangely. No. Then what are you talking about? Jilin lightly punched Luzhin. But even if you know how to curse, it doesn't matter. The dragon race is invulnerable and immune to curses. Ha. Luzhin was lying on the ground, already dead. Jilin walked out of the wooden hut. Behind him, the wooden hut started burning. A raging fire was ignited. Inside the wooden hut, not a single scream came out, even though there were dozens of people inside. A princess of the Divine Dragon Empire. Jilin placed his hands behind his head and leaned back slightly. He looked in the direction of the Snow Wind Empire in an extremely lazy manner. Jilin's eyes flickered with a golden light. It was as if he could see through the mountains and rivers and see the sky full of snow. A fish that escaped the net, a clown. Go ahead and show off. After saying this, Jilin transformed into his Megalosaurus form. He flapped his wings and soared into the clouds, disappearing in the blink of an eye. By the time the Middle Empire's army arrived, this place had already turned into a piece of white land. Everywhere was a scene of devastation. Not a single trace was left behind. Corpses, bone ashes, weapons, and houses were all gone. Only in the middle of the white land were a few boxes of fire avoidance talismans scattered on the ground. They were completely undamaged. The army that arrived here was terrified by the strange scene before them. The captain and the adjutant looked at each other and said loudly, "Take the things away." I'll say it one more time. Don't leak a single word of what you saw or heard during this mission. If you violate this order, kill without mercy. Yes. West of the Saimai Empire, in a small mountain village hidden by a forest. In the courtyard of an ordinary family, a middle-aged man dressed in black training clothes was holding a long sword and waving it around in a dazzling manner. The sword was like a swimming dragon, emitting a cold light. The man had a well-proportioned body and looked pleasing to the eye. Clearly, this was the result of many years of training. In front of the house sat a woman wearing pink clothes. She was looking at her husband with her hands on her cheeks. Her eyes were full of peach blossom colors. The man's sword technique was very smooth, but when he glanced at the wall of the courtyard, he saw a trace of red. The man froze on the spot as if he was struck by lightning. The wall of the man's house wasn't very high. A normal person standing outside the wall would be able to see their head. Shorter people would also be able to see their hair. What's wrong? The woman looked at the man and asked curiously. She even sat up straight. This was because the man would teach her swordsmanship every day, but he never stopped halfway. The man looked at the trace of red and moved his wrist slightly. He drew a beautiful sword flower and put the sword behind his back. Nothing, there's a guest at home. The woman was stunned. She looked outside the door and felt even more confused. She had never seen anyone with red hair in her entire life in this village. Then, I'll go cook, the woman asked. The man thought for a moment and glanced at the red color again. Then, he said decisively, Forget it. You should get a pot of water. Just a pot of water will do. Our family can't afford to treat him to a meal. The woman was stunned again. She thought to herself, what is my husband saying? Even if our family isn't rich, how can we not be able to treat a guest from afar to a meal? However, after many years of marriage, the woman trusted her husband very much. Time had proven that her husband was smarter than everyone in the village combined. Therefore, although the woman felt strange, she still went to get the water obediently. Bane walked to the door, removed the latch, and opened the door. Why didn't you knock? Bane let Jilin in. Jilin glanced at Bane's door and said with disdain, It doesn't look very sturdy. I'm afraid you'll break it. You still care about this? Bane obviously didn't believe him. Come, sit. Drink some water. Bane walked to the table in the courtyard and sat down. He gestured to Jilin. Jilin frowned slightly. He thought to himself, this person's brain is sometimes even more unpredictable than Aisha's. He's a fire dragon. Why would he drink water? However, after not seeing him for so many years, Jilin, who understood the ways of the world, knew that he had to give him some face. Although he didn't want to drink, he could drink some. Chapter 469. I haven't seen you for so many years. I'm getting old, but you haven't changed at all. Bane looked at Jilin, who had entered middle age. Looking at Jilin, who hadn't changed a bit with time, he couldn't help but sigh. Humans are like this, Jilin said. Life is short and fleeting. Yeah. Bane looked up at the sky and sighed. But you shouldn't be like this, Jilin suddenly said. Huh? Bane was stunned. What's wrong with me? You can ask Aisha to help you. Jilin looked at Bane and shook his head. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. There's already a human immortal in front of you. The road to immortality is already in front of you. How can you ignore it for so many years? Her? Bane hesitated, then glanced at his wife who was hiding at the door and peeking. Finally, he shook his head. She's too lonely. Life is a lonely individual. It's only because humans are too weak that they have to rely on each other. Bane shook his head and disagreed. Jilin, after so many years, you still don't understand people. No one is really completely alone. There are always things that are connected to the body that can't be broken off. If humans are completely independent, then Staya. Enough. Jilin suddenly looked at Bane. Bane looked at Jilin speechlessly, but he didn't look too surprised. If you don't want to talk about it, then don't. If you don't want to talk about it, then change the topic. You haven't come out for 20 years. What are you doing this time? You're not just here to see me, right? Of course not. Oh? Where's your child? Jilin glanced around. You seen my child? Bane was a little confused. No, I heard Aisha and the Dwarf King talk about him. Oh. Bane nodded in understanding. He went out. Boys of his age who have some ability can't stay at home. Oh, what abilities does he have? Jilin asked again. I taught him the sword technique that the Sword Saint taught me. He can be considered an outstanding talent among the younger generation. You think the little skills you taught are outstanding? This generation of the human race is disappointing. Bane was speechless. It's normal for you to look down on me, but don't look down on Sword Saint. Isn't his swordsmanship very handy for you? Sword Saint's disciples aren't much either. Nothing? They were all at the pinnacle of the human race. The kind that can fight against a golden warship alone. So what? Jilin was puzzled. TSK, TSK, TSK. Then there's nothing to talk about. Then why did he go out? Adventurers. Oh? Where are you going for an adventure? Red Dragon City, of course. Huh? Jilin raised his eyebrows. Your place is now the most dangerous and important demonic realm for humans. The Adventurers Guild pays a lot of money for missions in Red Dragon City. The most important reason why this kid is an outstanding talent among the younger generation is that he's the only one who's not dead after entering Red Dragon City in recent years. Jilin was silent for a moment. He hadn't noticed anyone coming in and out of his house all these years. Oh, how did you do it? My friend helped me. Bane said casually. The Dwarf King told him about a secret passage in Red Dragon City. Aisha sent a stone from Batel that year. Oh, I see. Jilin nodded. Such an outstanding talent among the younger generation, he must have hooked up with a lot of girls, right? Hooked up? Bane tilted his head. You're still using such a clever word. No. That's not like your kid. You. Do you have something to say? Bane was anxious. It's a small matter, Jilin said. I caught a princess of the Divine Dragon Empire back then. Do you remember? Bane's expression turned serious. He looked at Jilin seriously for a while. What are you doing? I haven't seen you ask her for so many years. Why are you suddenly asking now? It's not about what I'm doing. It's about what she's doing. Jilin smiled. She's been up to something recently. What did she do? You don't seem surprised. Jilin looked at him with interest. Bane was silent. These few days, the werewolf tribe's chief was killed by someone. Singh said it was someone from the Middle Empire. He wanted to use this as an excuse to attack the Middle Empire. Oh. This was done by Lysana? Bane asked. It should be, Jilin said. There's one more thing. She got someone to steal the goods I gave to the third prince. Oh, Bane responded. He picked up the cup and took a sip. Back then, I locked her up on the 17th floor of Red Dragon City. You were the one who rescued her floor by floor. Yeah. Bane nodded. So if she wants to deal with me, she'll probably look for you, right? After all, you're the only one on my side who can help her. TSK. Bane swallowed the water in his mouth. You can still think about things now? I think about it when I can't sleep. Yeah, what you said makes sense. If she wants to deal with you, there's no reason for her not to ask for my help. Bane didn't deny it. Instead, he said honestly, she came to me a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. What did she say? Jilin asked. She said she wanted to kill you. Bane laughed. She hates you for your country. You locked her up in a cage. It's not too much for her to kill you, right? How? I didn't ask. Do you care? I'm a little curious. I really want to know how a human wants to kill me. I didn't ask. She came to me at that time. I gave her a few words of advice, and then she left angrily. I haven't seen her since. What did she say to you at that time? Oh, she said that she knew I had no choice and that I didn't really want to be with you. She hoped that I could turn over a new leaf and fight with you bravely. We'll kill you together and return a safe world to humans. Oh, then why didn't you agree? Me? I have a family now. Why would I fight with you with her? Wouldn't that be crazy? I told her that the world isn't safe for humans without you. Plus, she can't kill you. If she can't, then forget it. Then she panicked and said that I was a coward or something. Then she left. Got it. Jilin nodded. He pondered for a moment. Do you still have the holy sword? No. Even Jilin didn't expect Bane to say that. That was the holy sword. A divine artifact. If you don't keep it at home, where can you keep it? You sold it? Jilin asked tentatively. How is that possible? Bane was speechless. He rolled his eyes at Jilin. No one can pick it up. I put it in front of Staya's grave. But why are you asking about the holy sword? Do you think she'll go to the Demon King? Yeah. Jilin nodded. Chapter 470. Gasp. Bane sucked in a breath of cold air. The Demon King? That's impossible, right? Didn't the Elven Queen kill the Demon King with one punch? Even if the Demon King's power can be inherited, isn't this too fast? It has only been 20 years, and a new Demon King has appeared? It is indeed rather fast. However, aside from this, I can't think of any way that princess can harm me. Jilin glanced at the northern sky. Impossible. Bane shook his head. It is impossible for Lysana to seek out the Demon King. Why? Because the Demon King is humanity's true enemy. Although the Divine Dragon Empire is unbearable, it is also a great empire with a 1,000-year-old legacy. It is impossible for Lysana not to know about the true human race. If she helps the Demon King get rid of you, the Demon King will no longer be able to keep it in check. That will be the end of humanity. How can Lysana not know what is more important? When Jilin heard Bane's words, he immediately looked at him strangely. It looks like you have also been greatly influenced by Staya. Why did I not realize that you are so naive and foolish in the past? Hatred can overwhelm humanity's fragile rationality. If the hatred is as deep as the ocean, so what if the entire world is buried with you in order to kill your enemy? You are talking about a lunatic. A normal person would not do that. No matter how deep the hatred is, one should not harm innocent people. How can a woman whose entire family died be considered a normal person? Bane felt speechless. If you had known, why would you do this? Back then, you were in favor of overthrowing the Divine Dragon Empire. Jilin looked at Bane, his eyes filled with disdain. Even so, I did not ask you to kill the entire Divine Dragon Empire's royal family. Fry did it. Didn't you ask for it? I did not ask for it. I don't care about the lives of a few humans. Jilin shrugged. However, Fry asked me what to do, whether to kill them all. I said that if it was convenient, then kill them. If not, then forget it. Bane showed a bitter expression as he looked at Jilin. He felt that the Divine Dragon Empire's royal clan's death was truly unjust. Is killing such a trivial matter in your eyes? Since you can do it or not, why don't you just stop doing it? The heavens have the virtue of cherishing life. And then? Bane asked. Then she said that we have to get rid of the weeds by the roots. Otherwise, there would be a lot of trouble. Then what did you say? I said up to you. Alas. Bane shook his head and sighed. Even a rabbit will bite when cornered. You forced her to this extent. It's understandable that she's willing to sacrifice all humans for you in a moment of impulse. But what if she really gets the Demon King's help? What will you do? Looking for the Elven Queen? This time, I won't foolishly follow you to the Elven Island, right? That's right. However, 20 years have passed, and many things have changed. Jilin said, this time, we will completely deal with the Demon King ourselves. Prepare the Holy Sword. If you can't even defeat him, how are you going to settle this? Who says I can't defeat him? Jilin snorted. I have also grown in the past 20 years. Besides, this new Demon King is definitely not as powerful as the one who has been frozen in the deep ice for 10,000 years. I might not necessarily lose. Bane only felt a splitting headache. He rubbed his temples and said loudly, Brother, this concerns the survival of the entire human race. Don't just make baseless guesses. Isn't that too unreliable? What are you afraid of? Jilin rolled his eyes at Bane. Isn't there still the third prince? This concerns the entire human race. Can he just stand by and watch? He has a plan that he has been preparing for 20 years to deal with me. It should be quite powerful. Bane was silent for a moment. If the third prince is included, it might be possible. But what if? I'm saying what if? What if the two of you together can't defeat the Demon King? What then? Jilin sneered. Then the human race can only wait for death. What else can they do? Bane almost choked to death. But after thinking about it carefully, he felt that Jilin was right. If the third prince and Jilin together couldn't defeat the Demon King, then the human race's destruction was not unjustified. After all, they had already used all their strength to fight the opponent. If they still couldn't win, then they could only admit that their skills were not as good as the opponent. Then let's go get the sacred sword? Bane asked. There's no rush. The Demon King, Jilin said slowly, several days later. In the endless ice plains in the north. This was a white world. The vast snow plains were connected by the howling wind and snow. Everywhere was hazy, and the wind and snow made it hard for people to open their eyes. It was like chaos, as if heaven and earth had yet to be created. This was the depths of the ice plains, extremely far away from human territory. This was the territory of the human race. In human terms, this was the territory of the Ice Demon clan. There shouldn't be any creatures other than the human race here. However, there was a person wearing a black cloak that covered his head and face, walking forward with his head lowered. He walked with great difficulty, and his entire body swayed as if he would fall at any moment. This was natural. Trekking in such a heavy snowstorm, his enemy was the entire world. Crunch, crunch, the sound of footprints in the snow was instantly covered by the wind and snow. Suddenly, this person stopped in his tracks. This was because, at some point, 5 or 6 blue-skinned people had appeared around him, or rather, they were creatures. Why are there dirty creatures here? A blue figure asked in surprise. Don't think too much. Freeze her to death, a blue figure said, and a faint blue light flashed on her hand. Wait, I have something to say. The person took off her hat. I'm the Divine Dragon Empire's Princess Lysana. I have something important to discuss with the Demon King. What Demon King? Dirty creatures are spouting nonsense. We are the human race. That's the Demon King. It's rare to see a dirty creature that can speak fluently after seeing us. Give her a quick death. Dirty creatures, you want to see the Demon King? You're courting death. I'm here to help you kill the Red Calamity. Lysana shouted. Those humans immediately quieted down. They looked at Lysana, then at each other. The Red Calamity was a name that every human had gnashed their teeth in the past 20 years, wishing they could chew it to pieces. Keep an eye on her. I'm going to look for the Demon King. No need. A voice suddenly rang out in the snowstorm. A thin figure slowly walked out of the snowstorm. Lysana could tell at a glance that this was the Demon King. Although his footsteps were light, the aura of an invincible Demon King was very obvious. The snowstorm was no longer fierce around him. Instead, it suddenly turned into gentle blue fairies that danced around him. King! The humans immediately knelt down. Weak, dirty creatures, how are you going to help me kill the Red Calamity? The Demon King went straight to the point. The Demon King's aura suppressed Lysana to the point of suffocation. She knew that if she said something wrong, she would definitely turn into an ice sculpture. My Divine Dragon Empire has a secret technique. If the Demon King uses it, he will definitely be able to subdue the Red Calamity. What secret technique? The foundation of the Divine Dragon Empire. Dragon Subduing Array. Chapter 471. Dragon Subduing Formation. Monarch Shen looked at Lysana, mulling over these 3 words. The Divine Dragon Empire is an empire created by the Water Dragon King and a filthy creature during the era of gods. This is recorded in my inherited memories. However, what is the dragon subduing formation? It's the formation that the Divine Dragon Empire uses to control flying dragons. How do you use it? Carve the formation on the flying dragon's body when it's born. Oh. Monarch Shin nodded slowly. Of course, a newly born flying dragon can do that, but that's the Red Calamity. How did you carve a formation on it? How did you hold it down? Monarch Shin was furious, and the wind and snow in the world became as sharp as knives. A suffocating fear rose in Lysana's heart. Monarch Shinran was the natural enemy of humans. Lysana hadn't believed it before, but now that she was facing Monarch Shin, she finally understood. For some reason, Lysana thought of the Saimai Empire's princess from back then. As a human, she dared to draw her sword against the demon king of that time. Wasn't that the same as an egg striking a rock, or an elk attacking a lion? A feeling of admiration rose from the bottom of his heart. Monarch Shin must be joking. Right now, it's impossible for any creature to control the Red Calamity. We can't carve the dragon subduing formation on it. We can only do it outside its body and place it inside the formation. The dragon subduing formation can suppress it. A mere filthy creature like you actually says you can suppress the Red Calamity? Monarch Shin asked. Monarch Shin, you don't believe me? Seeing is believing. All right. In a certain city in the Saimai Empire. At this moment, the busiest street in this city was bustling with people moving back and forth like small fish in a river. Bane and Jilin were among this crowd. Bane was no longer the same as before. He was over 40 years old and was a Tier 7 cultivator. In this small city, he could be considered a colossus. Moreover, Jilin had been idle for the past 20 years, but with Bane's personality, he definitely couldn't stay idle. In the past 20 years, Bane had done a lot for the people nearby. He had killed a lot of ferocious bandits and driven away a lot of ferocious beasts. Of course, compared to the opponents that Jilin had faced, these opponents were not even worth mentioning. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, this was already a shocking feat. One of them destroyed a bandit's nest, the other killed a bunch of bandits, and so on. Therefore, Bane was considered to be highly respected in the Saimai Empire. As he walked in the crowd, many people would take the initiative to greet him. He nodded his head habitually. But the people who came to greet him didn't notice that Sir Bane was a little stiff today. Are you nervous? Others might not have noticed it, but Jilin naturally did. Okay. Bane nodded. What are you afraid of with me around? It's because you're here. Bane growled. I'm now shopping with you on a street full of people. So what? Jilin raised his eyebrows. Didn't we do this before? Bane was silent for a moment. He thought to himself, wasn't Staya around back then? She could at least restrain you a little. Now that I'm alone, of course I'm a little nervous. What if a child steps on your foot and you want to kill me? I can't stop you even if I try my best. Why don't we go straight to get the holy sword? Bane said. Instead, we're strolling around here. Aren't you worried? How can it be so fast? Jilin said lazily. It's not that bad. It's not like you to stroll around aimlessly, Bane said. Jilin heard this and just smiled, but didn't say anything. Look at these people, they're living so happily. If Staya saw this, she'd be happy too. Jilin looked at the people on the street, their smiling faces, their youthful expressions, and said sincerely, what do you think they're happy about? Bane was silent for a moment. Jilin, you. They're not happy because they're really happy. They don't have anything to be happy about. But, what can they do if they're not happy? Life is hard, and it won't change because of your sad face and size. On the contrary, smiling at others can make your life easier. Most of them are here just to make a living. They'll have to do more tiring work in order to make a living, because they might have parents and children to feed at home. They're smiling now just to make others feel better and to make things more convenient for themselves. Jilin blinked and looked at Bane. When did you become like this? After all, 20 years have passed. Bane sighed. I'm a man with a wife and children now. Even though I'm living a more relaxed life than most humans, I still feel troubled often, not to mention those normal people. Every family has its own difficulties, and all living things suffer. I'm not lying. Jilin was even more confused. What are you troubled about? You won't understand even if I tell you. Life's trivial matters, the world's important matters. Humph. Jilin snorted. You're talking about this now? Don't think that I don't know anything after staying in Red Dragon City for 20 years. Isn't the current king of wisdom Stya's brother? Didn't he give you a city and make you the city lord? Why didn't you go then? Now you're sighing here. Because that city wasn't given to me, and I couldn't be bothered. That's not important. What I mean is, although these people seem to be living well, they're actually suffering. What do you mean? Jilin stopped and looked at Bane. Bane looked at Jilin blankly. When he realized that Jilin really didn't understand what he meant, he sighed as if he gave up. Alright, it's my fault. If that's the case, then I'll just say it. You're too strong for humans. If you're not careful, you'll cause humans to suffer great losses. I know this isn't your intention. But if you don't have anything else to do, then stay away from humans. After all, this is a special time. You don't know when the Demon King will come looking for you. Jilin didn't know why, but he suddenly laughed. You're exactly like Stya now. I can't compare to her. Bane smiled. Jilin, I want to ask you a question. Speak. Why did you come here? I want to see the world that Stya risked her life to protect. How do you feel? I think it's okay. Back then, in order to protect his people, the Demon King took a few of your elemental fusion attacks, and you blew off one of his hands. Would you block the Demon King's magic in order to protect other creatures and not dodge? Impossible, Jilin said with certainty. Bane paused. Is there anything you have to do in this world? No. That's true. What's that sweet smell? Jilin suddenly stopped and looked around. Bane's heart skipped a beat, and then he said softly, it's the smell of roasted chestnuts. Chapter 472. Jilin crossed his arms in front of his chest and raised his eyebrows. He looked at Bane strangely and said, it's just sugar-fried chestnuts. Why are you so nervous? I'm not asking you to treat me. I'm not a vegetarian. Bane's heartbeat quickened. It didn't escape Jilin's ears. Bane didn't answer Jilin, but sweat appeared on his forehead. Jilin felt more and more strange. He thought for a while and realized that something was wrong. Sugar-fried chestnuts were a food produced in the Middle Empire. How could there be people in the Saimai Empire who knew how to make this? The people in the Saimai Empire didn't care about this. Although this was strange. It wasn't worth Jilin's effort to find out. Jilin didn't care. He looked up at the end of the road. The street Jilin was on was one of the best streets in the city. The end of the road was the center of the city. There was a huge square. There were no fountains in the middle of the square. There was only a holy and solemn church standing in the middle. There must be a church at the end of every road. There must be a church in every city. Because this was the Saimai Empire. Therefore, this was the Saimai Empire. Actually, I want to see that. Jilin looked at the church and said, speaking of which, I've never been there. Bane was stunned. Then, a ridiculous feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. You, a dragon, want to see the Church of Light? You're obviously not on the same side as the God of Light. Your race is also a symbol of destruction and disaster in the Church of Light. Why are you going to the home of your enemy? To make a scene? You've never been there. If Stya was alive, she would definitely fight you to the death if she knew that you wanted to enter the Church of Light. Bane said bravely. He knew that he couldn't stop Jilin. He only hoped that Jilin would understand his intention and know that it was inappropriate for him to enter the Church of Light. If she's still alive, she won't stop anyone from entering the Church of Light, Jilin said. Bane was speechless because he knew that Jilin was right. However, he couldn't help but complain in his heart. Big brother, you're talking about people. Are you even human? I have to see how the God of Light can enjoy the worship of the people. He can't even protect his own saintess. As soon as Jilin said this, Bane understood that Jilin was going to cause trouble. By the way, how old are you? Without any rhyme or reason, Jilin suddenly blurted out this sentence as he was walking. Me? Bane was stunned and couldn't answer for a moment. He almost forgot how old he was. I'm 45 this year, right? Oh. Jilin nodded. When I first met you, you were only about 20. What realm are you at now? I'm at the 7th stage. Bane looked at Jilin. He didn't know when this guy had started to care about other people's realms. 7th stage? Jilin suddenly stopped and turned to look at Bane in surprise. Weren't you already at the 6th stage 20 years ago? 20 years have passed and you've only advanced by 1 stage? Bane didn't know what Jilin was surprised about. Becoming a 7th stage in 20 years. Isn't that normal? It's quite normal. Normal? Jilin blinked. Staya was already at the 9th stage when she was in her 20s. Even if you're slightly inferior to her, how come you still haven't caught up after 20 years? You. Sigh. Bane was speechless. How many people in the entire human race can compare to Staya? She's the kind of peerless genius that's hard to come by in 1,000 years. When she wasn't even 3 years old, she showed her talent and was appointed as the saintess by the people of the Church of Light. Such a young saintess candidate is unprecedented. Staya is also the princess of the Saimai Empire. She's valued by both the Saimai Empire and the Church of Light. The entire empire's resources are all on her. And Staya's comprehension is extremely high. She reached the 9th stage before she was 20 years old. Her speed of advancement is astonishing. Everyone thinks that she can surpass Flay and become the next youngest legend. Before Staya was captured by you, Staya was recognized by the human race as the chosen one. She's the child of God. She's the absolute strongest person of the younger generation. She can dominate the world. Even with your lifespan, you might not be able to see many people like her in tens of thousands of years. How can you compare me to her? Thank you. Jilin thought about it seriously. Was Staya really as powerful as Bane said? He didn't realize it before. Then when will you reach the 9th stage? Jilin turned around and asked. In my next life. Bane hugged his head with his hands and snorted. The 9th stage? That's a realm that only people with amazing talents can reach. For an ordinary person like me, reaching the 7th stage is already a blessing from the heavens. I'm extremely lucky. Jilin looked at Bane's confident expression and didn't understand. If you can't reach the 9th stage, then you can't reach it. Why are you so proud? Am I proud? Bane shouted. But, why are you asking this? The 9th stage and the 7th stage. Is there a difference in your eyes? Weren't they all killed by you with a single finger? I'm afraid that if you kill a 9th stage and a 7th stage, you won't be able to tell who's stronger. Yes, that's true. Jilin nodded. But if you can reach the 9th stage, I have a way to make you a legend. Become a legend? Yes. You're too weak now. There are many ways that you can't use. But if you can reach the 9th stage, there are some methods that you can use. You? Why do you want me to become a legend? Can't you use the Holy Sword? I want you to use the Holy Sword to kill the Infernal King. That way, the Infernal King will disappear completely. I can take the initiative to communicate with the Elven Queen. That's a big deal. You want me to kill the Infernal King? You? Bane wanted to scold him for being an idiot, but then he remembered that Jilin was temperamental after all, so he decided to let it go. You took the initiative to attack the Infernal King 20 years ago. That's true. Bane suddenly lost his confidence. Back then, he wanted to attack the Infernal King. But when he saw the Infernal King receive several of Jilin's elemental fusions with his own eyes, he felt that the Infernal King was a hero worthy of respect. He didn't want to attack him anymore. Instead, he felt that Jilin had gone overboard by taking advantage of the situation. But at that time, Staya had just died. Bane and Jilin had a common enemy, so he didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. But now, if Jilin wanted him to attack the Infernal King, creak, there was the sound of metal scraping. Bane suddenly came back to his senses. Unknowingly, they had already arrived at the door of the Church of Light. Jilin reached out and pushed open the iron door of the church. Jilin walked in. Bane reached out to stop him, but it was too late. Jilin walked forward. He thought to himself, this is where Staya's heart belongs to. She defended the light all her life, but what was the so-called light that humans called light? What exactly was it called? Bang! The wooden door of the church was pushed open. Jilin strolled into the church. Chapter 473. The churches of the Saimai Empire seemed to be the same. Although they were all over the place, other than the size, appearance, and interior decoration were all roughly the same. It had a white stone floor and a high dome. It was a huge, meticulously designed, colorful glass window with patterns on it. Every pattern on the window was an epic story. Neatly arranged stone pillars on both sides of the room, and in the middle of the room were the tables and chairs that occupied the main space of the church. 2 rows of long tables and chairs took up most of the space in the church. In front of the table was a wooden stage, and in the middle of it was a statue of the God of Light. At this time, there was no one else in the church, only a white-haired old man, wearing a white bishop's robe, sitting on the second row of chairs on the left, reading a book in his hand. Hearing the sudden sound of the door opening, the old man didn't have any other reaction. He only raised his head and glanced at Bane and Jilin, then lowered his head and looked back at the book. Bane nodded slightly to the old man, apologizing for the sudden intrusion. On the other hand, Jilin was sizing up his surroundings. He looked up and down, walked around in circles, and even used his finger to knock on the slightly fragile table. Not only was it rude, it was also very ignorant. It seemed that Jilin, the Megalosaurus, really wanted to know more about the church. The church is not open right now, and there is no activity today. What are you doing here? The old man's steady voice sounded. Bane suddenly froze, and then looked at the old man seriously. The old man's voice was flat and steady, but it was definitely not ordinary, because it contained the vicissitudes of life. It was like a small boat that had been through a lot, and although it was now calmly sailing on the quiet sea, it was stable. It didn't look special, but from the texture of the boat, one could tell how many storms it had been through, and how many times it had narrowly escaped death. Facing the old man's question, Bane was somewhat unable to answer. Because since he already knew that the old man was extraordinary, then he couldn't speak to him half-heartedly, or else it would be extremely rude if someone found out. But how to answer? The old man said that there was no activity in the church today. According to the customs of the Saimai Empire, no one would come to the church if there was no activity. Could it be that they were here to take a look? That was even more impossible. Although each of the churches of the Church of Light was magnificent and was indeed worth visiting, the people of the Saimai Empire were already tired of seeing them. It was just like their own door. No matter how beautiful their own door was, who would stay at their own door all the time? Do you have nothing better to do? Or should I say that there's an acquaintance here? Looking for someone? No, it would be too easy to expose. What? Can't I come if there's nothing important? Unexpectedly, it was Jilin who spoke first. Is the Church of Light a place where you can't come if you don't have something to do? Jilin's words were sincere, as if he was really asking a question. The old man paused and closed the book in his hand. He then raised his head and looked seriously at Jilin. Of course not. The Church of Light is a place where anyone can come at any time. No matter what the matter is, no matter what the intention is. Then why do you ask? Jilin asked. At the same time, he felt that this old man was a fraud. Only by asking, "Can I help you better?" The old man slowly got up and walked to less than a foot in front of Jilin. Bane opened his eyes wide in surprise. This old man had a head full of silver and was probably no less than 70 years old. However, his back was straight and his body was strong. His 2 steps were steady and even a little brisk. From his figure, he didn't look old at all. In fact, he was even more energetic than some young people. "Help me?" Jilin tilted his head. "How can you help me?" "If you're here to visit the church, I can introduce the origins of each piece of colored glass to you. If you're here to empty your mind, then I'll let you sit quietly and not let unrelated people disturb you. But if you're here to seek salvation, then I'm willing to listen to your sins and guide you in the right direction." Jilin blinked, then turned his head to look at Bane. "Is this how the people here talk?" Bane smiled on the surface and seemed unfazed. However, the hand behind his back kept tugging at the corner of Jilin's clothes. As a native of the Saimai Empire, he still felt a little guilty about being rash in the church with Jilin. If a normal person came to the church, then it should be about the same as these 3. Unexpectedly, when Jilin ignored the old man continued to speak without caring about him. "But I can't guess why you're here. That's why I'm asking you. What are you here for?" The old man quietly looked at Jilin and slowly spat out 4 words. "Red calamity." The space suddenly quieted down, as if all the air had suddenly disappeared. It was dead silent. However, in Bane's heart, it was as if thunder had exploded out of nowhere. It turned out that the old man had recognized Jilin's human form. He had probably recognized it at first glance. Despite knowing who Jilin was, he could still speak so confidently while being so close to Jilin. This old man was indeed not an ordinary person. Bane took a step forward and stood between Jilin and the old man. He gently bowed to the old man and said, "You are..." Bane wanted to smooth things over, but before he could say anything, he was grabbed by Jilin and thrown back. Bane flew over Jilin's head and out of the church's door. Bane was shocked. He thought to himself that even if the old man didn't live, the church would probably have to be rebuilt. However, after Bane adjusted his body in the air and landed steadily, he found that the old man was fine. He wasn't decapitated, nor was there a big hole in his stomach. Jilin was actually talking to this person. "You know me?" "I do." "When have we met?" "No, but you have ravaged the sacred city and brought great disaster to the people of the sacred city. The people of the Church of Light naturally have to remember you. When the Holy Queen was on the throne, she once used light magic to manifest your image and send it to every Church of Light." Jilin was silent for a moment. "I see. Then I'll ask again, what are you here for?" "The Red Calamity." The bishop asked. "You know it's me, why aren't you afraid of running?" Jilin asked with interest. "Because it's meaningless." The old man said, "If you really want to kill me, I won't be able to escape no matter how scared I am. Moreover, at my age, I'm already mentally prepared for the possibility of death. But most humans are different from you. No matter how old they are, even if they can't live past tomorrow, they will still be afraid of death. Because they are unable to extricate themselves from the mortal world, but I am always by the side of the God of Light." "Very good." Jilin looked at the old man and nodded. Then, he shifted his gaze to the statue of the God of Light and said calmly, "I'm here to see him." Chapter 474. I'm here to see him. Jilin spoke calmly, as if he was just a traveler visiting a friend or a patient in the hospital. But things were definitely not as simple as they appeared on the surface. Because when Jilin spoke of him, he was obviously looking at the light god statue. Jilin came to this unknown city not just to see a statue carved out of stone, he obviously wanted to see the light god himself. But how did Jilin know that he could see him? "You want to see the light god?" Bane exclaimed. "Not see him, just see him," Jilin said. "Ha ha ha." The old man suddenly laughed and shook his head. Nonsense, it's the age of chaos now, the light god hasn't shown himself for many years, what makes you think you can see him? Because this place is special. Jilin looked at the old man and said seriously, without a hint of mockery. Special? The old man narrowed his eyes. There's nothing special here. If you think you can see the light god just by coming to the light god statue, then you should go to the light church in the sacred city. That's the largest light god statue in the entire continent. Even if the light god wanted to show himself, he would choose that statue. Jilin is right, Bane said. Ha! Jilin pointed at Bane. Shut up, you don't know anything. As for you, you know but you're hiding it. The old man was silent. In the past, there was only one half-god land in this world, that was the Elven Queen's Elven Island. The Elven Queen could communicate with the gods on the Elven Island. Jilin walked around the statue and said, but a few years ago, a second half-god land suddenly appeared. It's here. Do you know why? Why? Bane asked. The old man still didn't speak. Because a few years ago, the light god was here and brought the holy sword down. Jilin looked at the old man. Am I right? How did you know? The old man looked at Jilin and asked with great difficulty. Almost every word was enunciated. There are too many humans, so if more than 3 people know about something, it can't be considered a secret at all. For something like this, after so many years, it's already considered a good job of keeping it a secret that the world doesn't know about it. Do you want it to be flawless and watertight? Jilin said slowly with a slightly complacent expression. After a short silence, the old man blinked his eyes as he looked at Jilin and suddenly said something irrelevant. You're really good at speaking. Have you learned it before? As soon as the old man said this, everyone fell silent. Bane thought to himself that these words were really unintentional. They seemed to be irrelevant, but in fact, they hit the nail on the head. Jilin pondered for a moment before ending the topic. Now that I've found the demigod land, how do I meet the divine light god? Even if you are not a mortal, do you think the god of light is someone you can meet whenever you want? Jilin didn't say much. He reached out and grabbed the old man by the neck and lifted him up. The old man's feet left the ground and he couldn't breathe. Jilin. Bane was shocked. What are you doing? This is not a place to kill. Jilin turned around and glanced at Bane. This is the rule of the Church of Light, who cares about you? What I want to know now is, if I kill this believer in the demigod land where the God of Light once descended, will the God of Light manifest and bless his believer? The God of Light's blessings for his believer are not substantial help, but to point out the right path in his believer's heart. Although the old man was about to suffocate to death, he still tried his best to clear the name of the God of Light, Tisk. Jilin sneered. What God of Light? It's useless. What are you trying to do? After saying this, Jilin casually threw the old man aside and turned to walk out of the door. When he reached the door, Jilin turned around and glanced at the god statue. Jilin didn't know who he learned this from. He spat on the ground and said fiercely to the god statue, Hypocrite who deceives the world to gain fame, I'll beat you to death sooner or later. Bah! Jilin spat on the god statue again. Boom! With a loud bang, the statue shattered into pieces, turning into a few shapeless pieces of stone, miserably falling to the ground. Bane looked at Jilin speechlessly. He thought to himself that this was very damaging and insulting. He spat on the god statue and toppled it. Bane and Jilin walked out. Bane really couldn't figure out Jilin's path now. This trip seemed to be just a spit on the statue. What are you trying to do? Bane asked. You really want to see the God of Light? Yes. Jilin said. But it's expected that you won't see it. I know that killing the old man in front of the god statue won't help. The God of Light doesn't appear even though so many followers die every day. Jilin shrugged, indicating that he didn't care about this failure. But Bane knew that things weren't that simple. According to Jilin's lazy personality, he wouldn't do something with such a high probability of failure. He must have another way. he must have another way to see the God of Light, and the success rate would be higher than killing a bishop. Since you already know that this method won't work, but you still came, it means that you have another way. What's your backup plan? Jilin was silent for a moment. It's actually very simple. Kill someone who's more important to the God of Light than the followers. Who? For example, the person chosen by the God of Light. Who? The person who can pick up the holy sword, the person chosen by the God of Light to kill the Demon King. Bane was shocked. He stared at Jilin with wide eyes and exclaimed, "You want to kill me?" TSK. Jilin shook his head in disdain. "You're just a sword giver. Do you think the God of Light would let someone like you, who can't even reach the 9th grade, do something like killing the Demon King? Do you think the God of Light would appear for someone like you?" Although Jilin's every word was like a knife stabbing into Bane's heart, Bane still breathed a sigh of relief. But on second thought, Bane's anger rose again. He stopped, looked at Jilin, and said slowly, "Then who do you want to kill?" Jilin glanced at him, then raised his finger and pointed at the stall selling sugar-fried chestnuts. "Kill the one selling sugar-fried chestnuts." Large beads of sweat appeared on Bane's forehead. "You? How do you know he's here?" Jilin patted Bane's shoulder. "You don't sound like someone who's known me for more than 20 years. Forget about me, don't you know Aisha's methods? A person who stayed in Aisha's secret base for several months, such a person, even if he went to the ends of the earth, Aisha could easily find him." Chapter 475. Bane looked at Jilin's calm eyes, but a bone-piercing chill welled up from the bottom of his heart. It was as if a shadow that could cover the sun had completely enveloped him, and it was extremely cold. At this moment, he suddenly realized that Staya had been dead for 20 years. Jilin and Aisha had been together for 20 years without Staya. With Aisha's methods, after 20 years, Jilin might have changed. He had become an evil dragon that killed people without batting an eyelid. No, he had become an evil dragon that ate people without spitting out their bones. "You want to kill Roar?" Bane's voice trembled slightly. "Roar?" Jilin thought for a while. "Is that person's name? The one who held the holy sword in the beginning?" "No, I want to kill him." "Why do you have such a big reaction? I've killed many people in front of you, right? His whole family died in your hands." Bane glared at Jilin, and he ground his teeth. His voice sounded as if it was squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. "Do you want to kill all of them?" "Yo yo yo." Jilin pouted. "What are you doing? I know how to grind my teeth. You don't have to perform it for me. I didn't do anything to him, right? Besides, according to what Flay said, how can this be called killing all of them? This is called cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots to prevent future troubles. How many successful people ended up being destroyed by future troubles? Bro, you've read too many melodramatic stories about humans." Bane said angrily. "Those aren't successful people, they're villains. They're unlucky people who bullied the protagonist in the early days and were defeated by the protagonist. But at least they were once glorious, and they were able to do whatever they wanted. They didn't live in vain. That's what you call living in vain. Who did you learn that from?" "Batel." "Stop teasing me. Batel is just a rock. Can a rock talk so much? It's a long story. Rumor has it that the Middle Empire has the ability to melt rocks. I didn't believe it before, but after seeing it today, I know that it's true. The third prince has a daughter named Li Wuyo." Bane was a little confused. "What's going on? This dragon wants to tell us a story?" All right. Bane waved his hand and interrupted Jilin's words. "I knew that the third prince wouldn't raise a daughter with normal values." "Oh?" Jilin was amused. "A thief like you actually looks down on the Emperor of the Middle Empire? How long has it been since I was a thief?" Bane glared at Jilin. "Even when I was a thief, the third prince was just a perverted thief who hooked up with little girls all day long. comparing a thief and a perverted thief, I'm better than him. Where did this come from? Jilin looked at Bane and thought helplessly. But do you really want to kill Roar? Bane changed the topic and asked seriously. After so many years, he was no longer the youth who could be easily led astray by others. That's what I thought at the time, Jilin said. Then you're not human, Bane said disdainfully. I'm not human to begin with. The heavens are virtuous. Why are you so ruthless? I didn't do anything. Jilin smiled. Then, what made you change your mind? It's because of something interesting. That's as good as not saying anything. Jilin looked at the sugar-fried chestnut stall and just smiled, but if Bane dared to peek at Jilin's eyes from the side, he would find that there were several golden lights flowing in Jilin's eyes at this time. Jilin looked at Roar, who was limping and working, and sneered slightly and said softly, "The god of light is really hypocritical." Huh. Bane was surprised and then quickly looked around. To say such words in the Saimai Empire. This kind of person really hasn't appeared in thousands of years. Bane saw that no one was looking at them strangely, and it seemed that no one heard him, so he was relieved. He wasn't afraid that others would hit Jilin, but he was afraid that if others hit Jilin, Jilin wouldn't be able to resist fighting back. What do you mean? Bane said. What's wrong with his leg? Jilin suddenly said. Didn't you hit him? Bane squinted. How many years has it been? Is it still not healed? Jilin said, Isn't the Church of Light very powerful? Can't this kind of injury be cured? Do you think your dragon's breath is so easy to cure? Bane said, if Roar hadn't been holding the holy sword at that time, there wouldn't even be ashes left of him now. Later, many bishops, and even Staya, used the cannon of light to cure him, but there was no effect. But it's different now. Jilin looked at Roar and said slowly, for people who have suffered setbacks like this, if the light doesn't use you, you are abandoned by the light and will fall. But if the light suddenly wants you to use you, it's a great responsibility from the heavens. Everything is a trial given by the light. If they want to use you, they will give you a hand. If they don't want to use you, they will leave you to fend for yourself for 20 years. Bane listened to Jilin's words, and the more he listened, the more his heart trembled. Jilin's words seemed to be implying something. What do you want? Why do you want to see the god of light? Jilin looked at Bane. Do you think that when a real hero uses an unsealed holy sword to fight with the Demon King, even if he can't win, he will be killed by the Demon King directly? Do you think this fits the logic of the story? Bane was stunned. He thought to himself that it was still about Staya. But this isn't a story. No. Jilin shook his head and looked at the sun and the sky. This is a story they wrote. The stories they wrote are so old-fashioned. The plot and logic of the story have not changed for tens of thousands of years. The gods seem to have left this world, but this world has always been under their control. They could have done something, but they never do it. The Elven Queen is right. Staya's death was unjust. Tisk. Bane closed his eyes and rubbed his face hard, making the wrinkles on his face look like buns. He thought to himself that Staya's death was not unjust at all. She sacrificed herself heroically and got what she wanted. Speaking of which, you even know the word unjust? It's over. Staya has been dead for 20 years. This matter has almost passed in his heart. He didn't expect that the murderous Jilin couldn't get over it. Not only could he not get over it, but he was also possessed. No, Bane just said 2 words, then suddenly stopped. Jilin suddenly grabbed his shoulder. What are you doing? We are going to get the holy sword. Jilin said. Why are you in such a hurry? Because the Demon King is out. Jilin didn't finish his sentence. He directly grabbed Bane and rushed into the sky, flying towards the west. The people walking on the road didn't notice that 2 people had disappeared without a trace. But at the stall selling roasted chestnuts, the owner secretly looked up at the sky and silently tightened his grip on the chestnut knife in his hand. Chapter 476. Jilin grabbed Bane and flew into the sky. Like a meteor, they shot toward the west. The wind howled and the white clouds dissipated. What happened all of a sudden? How do you know the Demon King is out? Bane was confused. He did not know what was going on. That thing is like a moving snowstorm. It's fine if it's in the ice field, but how can I not notice it when it's out of the ice field? Jilin had a pair of wings on his back. The two ferocious wings kept flapping. Bane still could not see the surroundings clearly. He only felt that after flying through the clouds, he had landed on the ground. Looking around, there was a blue sky and a blazing sun. The boundless sea of clouds extended to the horizon beneath his feet, but what he was stepping on was solid ground. Bane felt like he was standing on a lone island floating in the sky. This was the peak of the highest mountain in the world. The mountain peak that Jilin had built with his own hands, Staya's resting place. Bane took a breath and looked back. Sure enough, a square stone tablet with edges and corners stood behind him. This thing was glowing. Its color was similar to jade. Obviously, it was not an ordinary object. This was a treasure that Jilin had collected all the strange stones in the world and refined them. Ordinary masters could not leave any marks on it even if they used all their strength. However, there were a few big words on such a hard stone tablet. It was carved by Jilin with his fingernails. On it were the words Holy Queen Staya's tomb. Bane looked at the green stone stele and suddenly exclaimed in surprise. This was because he suddenly noticed that a line of small words had appeared at the bottom of the tombstone. The meaning of life is. Bane blinked. After thinking for a while, he asked Jilin, "What does this mean?" "This is what I promised Staya. One day, I will engrave the meaning of life on her tombstone." "Then why not now?" "Because I haven't understood it yet." "Is that so?" "Let's not talk about this for now. Go and get the sacred sword. Even if I have the holy sword, I can't hurt the Demon King, right?" Bane complained softly as he walked towards Staya's tombstone. He had been here once before, when the line of words had not been written under Staya's tomb. At that time, he inserted the holy sword in front of this bluestone. However, just as Bane's hand was about to grab the sacred sword, Jilin grabbed Bane's collar. It forcefully pulled Bane back a step. "What's wrong?" Bane asked. "No," Jilin said in a deep voice. "He's already here." "Who?" Bane widened his eyes and looked around. There was no one in sight. There was no such thing as he who had already arrived. He. Just as Bane was puzzled, a deep laughter suddenly sounded from the sea of clouds. Then, two figures slowly walked out of the sea of clouds. One person was completely blue and emitted a cold aura. She wore a simple soap-colored shirt and walked casually with her hands behind her back. The other person was wearing a golden dragon-scale armor, but the tough armor couldn't hide her slender figure and beautiful curves, nor her cascading black hair. Bane slowly widened his eyes. "Demon King. Lysana. Why are you with the Demon King? Do you know?" "I know." Lysana's voice was filled with extreme hatred as she decisively interrupted Bane, but her eyes were fixed on Jilin. If eyes could kill, with Lysana's fierceness, even Jilin's scales would not be able to withstand it. "Look." Jilin looked at Bane and said, "I knew it. Once a woman loses her head, she'll do things without caring about anything." Bane did not want to pay attention to him. "Who do you think you're blaming for this? If you hadn't ruined her family, how could there be such a thing today? Lysana, you're asking a tiger for its skin. You're gambling with all of humanity." Bane looked at her, hoping to persuade her to stop. "So what if I am?" Lysana looked at Bane. "I've lost everything. Family, country, I have nothing now. What does the life and death of humanity have to do with me? I only have one goal now, and that is to kill the Red Calamity. I don't care about anything else. You want to stop me? I can't stop you, nor can I stop the Demon King beside you. I just want to persuade you. You're human, after all. Humans are human. How dare a filthy creature call himself human, the Demon King suddenly said, and a visible chill flowed towards Bane. Bane looked at the Demon King, feeling a little afraid, but he did not move. He tried his best to look calm. As expected, Jilin also waved his hand, and a ball of fire counteracted the Demon King's chill. You came so quickly. I didn't expect you to come, Jilin said to the Demon King. Actually, I've been here for a long time. I hid my aura and waited for everything to be ready before causing a snowstorm in the north. Haha, the Demon King is actually acting so sneakily. You're not as good as the former Demon King. The former Demon King was too open and aboveboard. That's why you plotted against him and killed him. I'm different. Since the enemy is despicable, I'll naturally do the same. Haha. Last time, I had the upper hand against the Demon King. This time, it's your turn. It has been nearly 20 years since you inherited the throne. All these years, you clearly hated me to the bone. However, you hid in the ice plains and did not come out. Presumably, you were not confident of victory. This time, you came out and even brought a human with you. What preparations did you make? Or should I say, the help this human brought you gave you so much confidence? Jilin said with a chuckle. No, the Demon King said softly. The one that gave me confidence was your dragon race. The dragon race? Jilin tilted his head. Ha ha. Lee Sena suddenly laughed maniacally. Red Calamity. You didn't expect this, right? My Divine Dragon Empire's secret to controlling flying dragons is actually your dragon race's forbidden technique, the Dragon Subduing Formation. The Dragon Subduing Formation? A wave of heat suddenly surged from beside him. Bane was startled and hurriedly dodged. When he turned back to look at Jilin's face, he was even more stunned. He had never seen Jilin's face so dark and ugly. The Water Dragon King actually passed the Dragon Subduing Formation to you? Jilin said coldly. The anger in his voice seemed to be able to burn the entire world. What's the Dragon Subduing Formation? Bane asked. Why are you so agitated? Do you think it can subdue you? To Bane's surprise, Jilin actually spat out a word. It can. How is that possible? Bane's eyes widened. There's a formation in this world that can suppress you? The Dragon Subduing Formation doesn't belong to this world. It was created by the dragon race's Silver Dragon King. Silver Dragon King? Bane thought to himself. Just from the name, I know he's your relative. He's second only to the Black Dragon King and can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Golden Dragon King. He's the master of elements and magic, the Silver Dragon King. The Silver Dragon King can cast all kinds of elemental magic as he pleases, but his physical strength is also the lowest among all the dragon race. The dragon race also has very strong magic resistance, so the Silver Dragon King's magic has very little effect on other dragon race. So, the Silver Dragon King developed the Dragon Subduing Formation to eliminate his weakness when facing other dragon race? Bane continued Jilin's words. Yes, Jilin said. Then you? Bane said worriedly. Sorry to trouble you, Jilin said. Chapter 477. Trouble. Although there was only a single word difference between the two words, the meaning was completely different. Bane had known Jilin for so long, but this was the first time he had heard Jilin say those words. An unprecedented sense of unease instantly enveloped Bane's heart. In the current world, the only opponent that Jilin could not defeat was the Elven Queen. Moreover, she was still stuck on the Elven Island. Now that this new Demon King had appeared, Jilin actually said that there was trouble. If Jilin really lost, wouldn't the human race be facing extinction? Then what do we do? Fight? Or run? Bane asked. According to Bane's thoughts, Jilin still had a lot of room for growth. Where there was life, there was hope. Although there was trouble now, it would definitely be no trouble in a few decades or even a few centuries. It's too late to leave now. Lysana said with a smile, then glanced at the Demon King. The Demon King understood tacitly and raised his hand to form a hand seal. Dragon Subduing Formation, activate. A burst of blue light suddenly lit up the mountaintop, then instantly spread for tens of thousands of kilometers. A layer of blue light covered the pure white sea of clouds, making it look like the real sea. The Dragon Subduing Formation had already been activated. Bane looked at himself and did not see anything strange. He then looked at Jilin and saw a layer of blue light circulating around his body. He had clearly fallen for the Dragon Subduing Formation's trap. How does it feel? Jilin remained silent. Ha ha ha, this is a formation that the dragon tribe researched for their own kind. It must not feel good. As Lysana spoke, she suddenly took out a small silver bottle from behind her. Lysana removed the bottle cap, and Jilin's eyebrows immediately sank. At the same time, his mouth opened slightly. Bane knew that Jilin's action meant that he was extremely furious. Jilin opening his mouth didn't mean that he was so shocked that he couldn't close it, but that he wanted to bite someone. What is that? Bane asked. Dragon blood, Jilin said slowly. Bane looked at her in shock, thinking that she had grown bolder after all these years. She was the first person who dared to offend Jilin to such an extent. Why did you take out a bottle of dragon blood in front of Jilin? Was this a provocation? Oh. It's normal for you to provoke him, but the difference in strength between you two is huge. Even if you hate him to the bone, you can't be so arrogant. Her confident behavior made Bane feel a little guilty. Jilin, there's a saying among the humans that comes with ill intentions. Be careful. No matter how careful you are today, you won't be able to escape death. Lysana was full of confidence. You'll regret not killing me back then in hell. After Lysana finished speaking, she raised her head and drank the entire bottle of dragon blood in an instant. Ha ha ha, a strange sound rang out. Bane turned around and saw Jilin grinding his teeth. He had obviously gone mad with anger. In Jilin's eyes, Lysana's actions were no different from eating a human in front of him. They should all be dismembered or burned alive. Of course, Lysana probably thought the same of Jilin. Ah! Lysana suddenly let out a violent scream, and the more she screamed, the more miserable it became. Gradually, it didn't sound like a human's voice, but more like a beast's. What's wrong with her? Bane asked. She's courting death. Jilin said hatefully. A mere human actually dared to taint herself with dragon blood? She's overestimating herself. Bane blinked. What will happen to her? A human's body can't withstand the immense energy of dragon blood. She will only be in extreme pain, her blood vessels will burst, and her entire body will bleed to death. This. Bane was a little hesitant. Something's not right. What's wrong? Lysana is definitely not a stupid person. She planned to kill you for many years, and in the end, she even pulled the entire human race into the bet. After spending so much effort, her goal can't be to die in front of you, right? Jilin thought about it, and felt that Bane's words made sense. No matter how stupid this human was, she wouldn't go to such an extent, but he also couldn't think of how a human could withstand dragon blood. Wait a minute. All of a sudden, Jilin recalled the reason why he wanted to capture this woman. She was the child of the dragon. If she was really the child of the dragon, then of course she could withstand dragon blood. Because her body had dragon blood in it, but why didn't he notice it back then? Was it the Water Dragon King's doing? As expected, Lysana's screams gradually subsided. No one knew what kind of inhuman pain she had experienced. Hard blue scales grew out of her skin. How was it different from the pain of being cut into pieces? Moreover, she now had horns on her head and a pair of wings on her back. Lysana's fangs became sharp and long, and her palms turned into fierce claws covered with tiny scales. They looked very powerful. It was exactly the same as Jilin's dragon form. But she looked countless times more miserable than Jilin. Her body was covered in her own blood. It slowly flowed between the gaps of her scales. I should have thought of it. Jilin suddenly sighed. Without dragon blood, how can I set up the dragon subduing formation? Red disaster, since things have reached this point, you can die. Lisanna waved her claws, creating gusts of wind, and the sea of clouds rolled endlessly. Obviously, the dragon blood gave her great strength. Yes, Jilin said. But do you think you can defeat me like this? Don't you still have me? The Demon King finally spoke. Now that you are restricted by the dragon subduing formation, your strength should be about the same as mine after being weakened. But I still have a helper who can barely be considered as a helper. You are already killed by me. Jilin looked at the Demon King. Do you really think I don't have a helper? Him? The Demon King looked at Bane. There was no disdain in his eyes, as if he was looking at air. Of course not. Jilin said very decisively. Bane felt as if he had been stabbed in the chest, but at the same time, he let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Jilin didn't treat him as a helper. If Jilin said to him now, I am now trapped by the dragon subduing formation and my strength has been greatly reduced, this battle will depend on you. Bane would probably want to cry even more than now. After waiting for so long, it's finally here. Jilin looked at the sky. A small golden dot whizzed toward the mountain peak like a shooting star. Boom! With a loud sound, the golden dot fell to the ground. When the dust settled, a 2-meter-tall humanoid puppet stood in front of Jilin. This puppet looked very extraordinary, and a dark light flowed on its body. The thick outer armor seemed to be made of extraordinary ores. It was like an enlarged version of the bright snow divine weapon. It was more like a mobile city that could transform into a human shape, but shrunk countless times. This is... Bane widened his eyes. This is a bright snow divine weapon that has been enlarged by 2 times? No. A buzzing sound came from the puppet. No, it was no longer appropriate to talk about the puppet now. This was a set of armor. The sound went through the armor and continued, this is not a bright snow divine weapon. This is the human emperor's throne. Brother Long, I am late. Chapter 478. The Third Prince? Bane couldn't tell who the person in the armor was from his appearance and voice. However, there was only one person in the world who could call Jilin Brother Long. What was more, the shrunken mobile city was even called Throne of the Human Emperor, which was such a showy name. Although the Third Prince's entire body was hidden in the armor, he didn't have any intention of hiding his identity. As expected of the human emperor's demeanor, he was dignified and popular. Bane walked to the Third Prince's side with a strange expression and knocked on the Third Prince's mechanical leg that was taller than him. Clang! 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 Brother Bay, the Third Prince said in a low, muffled voice, it's been a long time. How have you been? The Third Prince, what are you doing? Bane was amused. Brother Bay, this place is dangerous. You should leave first. We can talk later. Bane nodded and hurriedly ran away. Since Jilin already had a reliable helper, he could leave without worry. However, he couldn't really leave completely. Thus, Bane hid at the bottom of the stairs. He could see the situation on the mountain as soon as he raised his head. He could ensure his safety by bending down. The human emperor is actually colluding with the Red Disaster? Lisanna pointed at the Third Prince and said angrily, have you forgotten how he has ravaged us humans all these years? How many people have suffered because of his test drive? Xingming City, the capital, Morag, Calming Wind Pass, Divine Dragon City, Divine Dragon Empire, Nanshin Empire, wherever he goes, it's like a disaster descending. Now that he's trapped in the dragon subduing formation, he has 2 enemies, the Demon King and me. As the human emperor, you should seize this heaven-sent opportunity to avenge those countless innocent people. That does make some sense. The Third Prince said, but you should know what kind of existence the Demon King is. This is a creature that takes the destruction of mankind as its mission. Although Brother Long has caused great harm to the human race, to the entire human race, the Demon King is even more dangerous. You don't deserve to be the human emperor. Princess of the divine dragon empire, your eyes and mind have been blinded by hatred. The third prince said slowly, you're the one who stole the Red Dragon Church's goods, aren't you? Are you trying to start a war between me and Brother Long? I didn't think you'd be such a coward. She looked at the third prince with a look of disappointment. Aren't you two almost done? The Demon King stuck out his tongue and licked his upper lip. Isn't it time to get down to business? Human Emperor is a variable. Lysana looked at the Demon King and said, we didn't expect this. Then what do you want? The Demon King laughed. No matter what, the Red Disaster must die today. I'll kill this pile of rocks while you stall the Red Disaster. How about it? According to what you said, the Red Disaster is affected by the dragon subduing formation and has less than 10% of its strength left. You're the one who set up the dragon subduing formation, so your strength will be greatly enhanced. You should be able to stall the Red Disaster, right? Lysana stared at Jilin. How long do you need to kill Liu? The Demon King looked at the third prince and extended a finger. Then, it extended another finger, and another finger. 30 breaths will do. Lysana looked at Jilin with a cruel smile. No problem. I'll let him live for another 30 breaths. Without waiting for Lysana to speak, the Demon King walked towards the third prince, who was wearing the human emperor's throne. The third prince turned to look at Jilin before walking towards the Demon King with clanging footsteps. You're quite good at picking opponents. Does the Demon King also pick soft persimmons to bully? The third prince said. The Demon King spread his hands. Although the Red Disaster is the culprit behind the previous king's death, I'd rather kill you, a filthy creature who calls yourself the human emperor. He. The third prince turned the human emperor's throne's huge wrist. Demon King, times have changed. The era where you can casually call humans filthy creatures is long gone. Come and experience the power that humans have developed while you've been sealed in ice for thousands of years. With this power, not to mention you, even if it's before the gods, humans would dare to attack. From now on, there's nothing that can determine the fate of humans. The power you've developed, is this dubious thing? The Demon King's expression was full of disdain. Yes, the third prince said seriously. 20 years ago, we weren't ready. But after that, the entire human race united. This human emperor's throne is the greatest masterpiece that humans have created by gathering all of their power. Take this, Demon King. The third prince shouted, and the human emperor's throne began to emit a dazzling golden light that illuminated the entire mountain peak. Even the strongest light couldn't dazzle Jilin's eyes, so Jilin saw the mystery of the third prince's light. This wasn't a beam of light, but a ball of light formed by countless light spots. There were hundreds of millions of light spots. Even Jilin couldn't count how many there were. Every light spot the size of a grain of rice contained a human figure. This was the third prince's human emperor's power. But back then, when the third prince used it, it was far from reaching this level. At that time, he could only manifest those human figures, and the human figures filled the world. Although it seemed to be very powerful, it was far from being as easy as controlling a finger, and the power wasn't as condensed. From the looks of it, this human emperor's throne wasn't just a sturdy outer shell. It was extremely helpful for the third prince to use human emperor's power. Jilin thought. Following that, the ball of light began to change. Countless tiny light spots began to condense, turning into countless slightly larger light spots. Like the light of fireflies, the light spots began to disperse, covering the entire space of the mountain peak as they slowly moved. They were like countless golden, slow-flying fireflies. This is... Jilin looked at the countless slow-moving golden light spots and narrowed his eyes. The starry sky? The third prince was blindfolded, so his slightly deep voice sounded. 1 star is 1 world, and 3,000 stars are 3,000 worlds. This move is called Boundless World. As the third prince spoke, there was a cracking sound. The human emperor's sword was inserted into the throne's wrist. Following that, the third prince began to point at the surrounding human emperor's sword. Wherever the human emperor's sword went, the stars moved. White tiger, vermilion bird, azure dragon, black tortoise. Countless golden stars began to gather, and the light gradually turned into the shape of the four divine beasts. Even more golden stars continued to slowly rotate around, as if forming a mysterious array. The Demon King looked at his own body, but it didn't seem to be the same. This array, boundless world four holy array, white tiger. The third prince pointed the tip of his sword at the Demon King. The white tiger in front of him roared fiercely. Although this tiger was only formed by light spots, when it roared, there really was a mighty tiger's roar that resounded between heaven and earth. It was deafening. Jilin watched from the side with great interest. He thought to himself that the third prince, who didn't know anything about arrays, was able to use a three-dimensional array so skillfully. This human emperor's throne was indeed powerful. However, he didn't seem to notice that while he was watching with great interest, Lee Sana, who was covered in scales and holding a blue dagger, appeared behind him like a ghost. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.